Good evening.
Good evening. It's nice that we're all here together, isn't it? Yeah, very, very nice. So I'll call the meeting to order, and I would like to ask one of our veterans who served so well, Vietnam, Doug Bamford, to lead us in the pledge. Doug is a gentleman in the front row down here.
All first responders, active duty, and veterans may render a hand salute. All others may place your hand over your heart. Ready to begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Doug, and welcome home. Okay, closed session report?
Thank you, Mayor. There's nothing to report out of closed session this evening.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Luevanos,
Here.
Councilmember Kavanaugh,
Here.
Councilmember Judge,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Litzter,
Here.
and Mayor Mashburn.
Here. Agenda review. Anybody have any changes for the agenda?
Mr. Mayor, I will note that there is a supplemental to consent calendar item 3. It's on the dais before you. It changes the number that the staff is looking for on that item to increase the amount of funds that we need for fuel costs. Thank you.
So they lowered that, is that it?
We're
wish.
waiting. We're waiting for that to happen.
I just thought I'd throw that out.
I move that all resolutions and ordinances presented tonight be read in title only and all further reading be waived. Second?
Motion second, call for the vote.
The motion passes unanimously.
Declaration of conflict. If any member of the city council may have a conflict of interest or any reason why that member must abstain from consideration of any matter on this agenda, he or she should so declare at this time. Seeing none, we'll move forward.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, the first item on the agenda is item 1D1, presentation of certificates of commendation to Team 986A Grace Brethren Robotics 2022 Design Award at VEX California State Championship, and Samantha Argabright is here to present the certificates.
Good evening, Mayor Mashburn and members of the City Council. Tonight we are recognizing Team 986A from Grace Brethren, who competed in the VEX Robotics California State Championship in Laverne on March 4th and March 5th of this year. This year, the team won the Design Award for the state of California. The Design Award is presented to a team that demonstrates an organized and professional approach to the design process, project, and time management and team organization. The VEX Robotics competition is one of the largest and fastest growing robotics engineering programs in the world. Each year, students design, build, and program a robot to address a new engineering challenge that is presented in the form of a game. Teams compete throughout the year at a series of events. Students gain valuable life skills in addition to learning engineering and design principles related to STEM. We're recognizing 4 students, 4 team mentors, and 1 advisor this evening. As I call your name and project role, please come forward, and you'll be standing over here, and the mayor will meet you with your certificates. Number 1, Ian Nelson, programmer and online challenge lead, and happens to be Sergeant at Arms of the Youth Council. Owen Zahn, builder and driver. Peter Wang, CAD designer and engineering notebook lead. Benjamin Solomon, logistics and builder. And now the mentors. Cecily Nelson, mentor. Bill Shem, mentor. Donna Shem, mentor. And accepting for Jake Mattel, the advisor, is Grace Brethren Administrator Stephen Barshaw. Congratulations.
Come on up.
You're just saying that because I'm the shortest one.
So maybe we should do this idea.
I could just all turn, everyone turn sideways, you can scrunch in a little bit.
Ian, you've Here we come.
That's where Worlds is in Dallas.
Oh, wow.
Thank you.
So Mayor, they were saying that that Worlds is in Dallas this year, so that's why they're headed to, anyway, headed there for some great stuff, so congrats.
That was exciting, truly, and, you guys are spectacular for what you've done, so we had to do a little change, get you up here on the higher level, right where you belong, so thank you so much.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, the next item on the agenda is 1D2, presentation of an honorary resolution to the 2022 Community Volunteer of the Year. And Raquel Worth is here to present this item.
Good evening, Mayor Mashburn and members of City Council. Tonight, the city would like to recognize 2 Simi Valley residents for their significant volunteer service. The first award goes to a dedicated volunteer who has been nominated by a member of the public at large to be this year's Community Volunteer of the Year. Several nominations applauding the dedication, time, and talents of community members were received. Tonight, the City Council would like to recognize an outstanding member of our community as the 2022 Community Volunteer of the Year. At this time, I would like to ask Simran Nadig to please come forward as I read an honorary resolution recognizing her as the 2022 Community Volunteer of the Year. Whereas, since its incorporation in 1969, the quality of life for residents in the city of Simi Valley has been positively impacted by the selfless contributions of committed volunteers. And whereas the Simi Valley City Council established a Community Volunteer of the Year to highlight the endeavors of an individual who is responsive to the current community needs and whose efforts embody a commitment to volunteerism. And whereas Simran Nadig has been selected as the 2022 Community Volunteer of the Year for the positive impacts she has made on Simi Valley families affected by the pandemic. And whereas Simran Nadig serves as the Youth Program Director of Ventura County for Seva International, a faith-based service organization that promotes putting service above self. And whereas Simran Nadig increased her efforts during the health emergency, donating 600 hours over the past year to help grow the weekly food pantry at Sinaloa Middle School to serve 200 families each week. And whereas Simran Nadig works with a nutritionist and local farms and suppliers to distribute fresh and organic food options to low-income families to encourage healthy eating habits, which will reduce medical costs. And whereas Simran Nadig started an Act Now club and inspired other high schools to start Act Now clubs, donating more than 100 hours to a program that impacts 1,500 Simi Valley families by connecting high school students to volunteer opportunities and helping economically disadvantaged children by providing tuition for online tutoring to help improve their grades. And whereas Simran Nadig, as a junior in high school, has leveraged her impact, serving as a model to her peers, inspiring them to follow her in her efforts, and thereby creating lifetime volunteers. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Simi Valley that it hereby honors Simran Nadig as the 2022 Community Volunteer of the Year and expresses its sincere gratitude for her tireless service to our community. Presented this 11th day of April, 2022.
Are we on?
We are on.
Okay. Well, this is so special, especially after COVID and everything. And the volunteers in this community is what makes this community great. But after hearing everything you've done, we're at another level. And so all I can say on behalf of this entire council and on behalf of everybody that lives in our city, thank you so much. And how fun is it to put someone on the spot and say, please say something?
Hello?
Here we go.
Yeah. I would like to first thank the City of Simi Valley for recognizing me for this award. Thank you so much. I always viewed my community that I live in as a family, so, I always know that you have to celebrate the good times and help each other through the difficult ones. When I first started this program, I had no idea what I was doing at all. So I only had this burning desire to do something meaningful. So I would like to thank everyone who helped me through this process, everyone who volunteered their time, their effort, and who helped me make these connections. Thank you so, so much. Lastly, I just guess, thank you. This is really overwhelming right now. I've been practicing my Academy Award reading speech, so I'll just use that. But yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, the next item on the agenda is item 1D3, presentation of an honorary resolution to the 2022 City Volunteer of the Year, and Raquel Worth will present this item as well.
Each year, staff from the city's various departments is asked to nominate some of the city's dedicated volunteers for one to be selected as the City Volunteer of the Year. Tonight, the City Council is recognizing the individual who has stood out as having a great impact over the past year as the 2022 City Volunteer of the Year. At this time, I would like to ask Russ McClellan, please come forward as I read the honorary resolution recognizing him as the 2022 City Volunteer of the Year. Whereas, since its incorporation in 1969, the quality of life for citizens in the city of Simi Valley has continued to improve due to the significant contributions of the committed volunteers in our community. And whereas, even during a pandemic, over 100 City of Simi Valley volunteers continue to contribute thousands of hours to city programs and services. And whereas the Simi Valley City Council established the City Volunteer of the Year to recognize a special individual whose outstanding service to the city represents our citizens' willingness to give back to their community. And whereas the City of Simi Valley recognizes these extraordinary volunteers in conjunction with National Volunteer Week, which was established in 1979 to celebrate the impacts that volunteers have in communities across the United States. And whereas Russ McClellan has been chosen as the City of Simi Valley's 2022 City Volunteer of the Year for donating his time and many talents to the Simi Valley Police Department volunteer program since 2013. And whereas Russ McClellan served as the lead trainer for the Citizens on Patrol program, ensuring that the homes of citizens away on vacation remain secure in their absence and freeing up police department resources to handle emergencies. And whereas Russ McClellan assisted as the lead driver for the Every 15 Minutes program, a powerful visual demonstration including a crashed vehicle that shows teens the dangers and consequences of driving while impaired by alcohol. And whereas Russ McClellan applies his many skills and experience while serving on the Police Explorers Post 2910 board, applying for grants, overseeing financials, and sharing his time and experience as an Explorer advisor to youth ages 14 to 20, positively shaping their future as leaders. Whereas Russ McClellan is enthusiastically willing to assist in any capacity assigned to him, consistently going above and beyond what is expected. And whereas, in addition to all that he does, Russ McClellan is the embodiment of selfless service, perpetually demonstrating professionalism, leadership, and commitment. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Simi Valley that it hereby commends Russ McClellan as the 2022 City Volunteer of the Year and expresses its sincere gratitude for his dedicated service to our community. Presented this 11th day of April, 2022.
Okay, in the past, I've always said this is a difficult evening to say it, but I just look at the importance by the number of whereases on the resolution. We've got a big contest going here tonight. But at any rate, just think of the hours saved and the protection you and I receive at literally no cost. When they come out and patrol our area, patrol our homes when we're on vacation, or maybe when husband's gone, the wife and kids are there. You always have these volunteers out looking out for us and getting the police out quickly if needed, hopefully not needed. But, and then the stuff you've done with the explorers, bringing up young individuals to become full-time police officers. This is a huge deal, and we appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Well, I'll give the mic to Russ, and I'll hold it up high for you tall guys.
I'm not that tall.
And then if you do a good job, we'll invite the chief to come up and say a few words.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next on the agenda is item 1D4, presentation of a proclamation declaring April 2022 as Fair Housing Month, and Stratis Perels is here to present this item.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. Tonight, we recognize the Housing Rights Center for their efforts, dedication, and work, and issue this proclamation declaring the month of April as Fair Housing Month. The Fair Housing Proclamation reads as follows. Whereas the city of Simi Valley is dedicated to providing all of its residents equal housing opportunities through the elimination of housing discrimination, and whereas April is the 54th anniversary of the enactment of Title VIII of the Civil Rights Act of 1968, and whereas the Fair Housing Act forms a national policy of non-discrimination in the sale, rental, or negotiation for sale or rental of dwellings based on race, color, religion, gender, national origin, familial status, or disability. And whereas the state of California's Fair Employment and Housing Act and the Unruh Civil Rights Act also protect California residents from housing discrimination based on age, ancestry, marital status, sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, genetic information, source of income, military or veteran status, and other arbitrary basis. And whereas through a contract with the city, the Housing Rights Center provides a fair housing program to investigate and remedy illegal housing discrimination and counsel and educate housing consumers and providers alike. And whereas, despite existing legislation, discrimination in housing continues to be a nationwide problem, necessitating vigorous education and enforcement efforts by the Housing Rights Center, with the city of Simi Valley being an active partner in those efforts. Now, therefore, the month of April 2022 is hereby proclaimed Fair Housing Month in the city of Simi Valley to encourage all citizens and civic organizations to continue to support the principles of the Fair Housing Act, presented this 11th day of April 2022.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, the next item on the agenda is 1D5, presentation of a proclamation declaring the month of April 2022 as Earthquake Preparedness Month. And Eileen Connors is here to present this item.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. I would like to invite down Corinne Bridges, the Emergency Services Coordinator, to accept the proclamation. Whereas Simi Valley residents have witnessed earthquakes that have resulted in property damage, injuries, and loss of life, and significant financial impacts. And whereas as many as 10,000 earthquakes occur each year in California, and mitigation measures can save lives and speed the return to normalcy. And whereas California is the first state in the nation to offer free, cutting-edge technology designed to alert Californians before shaking begins through the Earthquake Warning California system, including the MyShake app, Android earthquake alerts, and wireless emergency alerts. And whereas Simi Valley residents and employees are encouraged to participate in the Community Emergency Response Training, or CERT Academy, which is currently offered as an online hybrid training to build their resiliency skills to protect themselves and help their neighbors during an earthquake or other crisis. And whereas households and businesses are encouraged to visit ready.gov to create emergency plans and kits to be prepared in the event of a disaster, and to visit 5:30 a.m. for emergency updates. Now, therefore, the month of April 2022 is hereby proclaimed Earthquake Preparedness Month in the city of Simi Valley to encourage its residents to be prepared in the event of an earthquake to help build a resilient community. Presented this 11th day of April 2022.
Honest, I'm not Mike crazy and trying to be a hog on it, but this is something near and dear to each of us. We tend to focus on first responders, only go to fires and crimes, people injured in car accidents. But we live in a very active community, and we have trains that could have problems and create a need for everyone to respond together. We have the earthquakes, of course, that we just spoke of. We all know about the brush fires that come in, but there's so much more. We're very close to a military base that also has all types of aircraft flying by. So any day, any time, we can be affected. And having all these CERT members in place is vitally important. So when you see someone donating their time to CERT, please thank them. Just like a military person going to foreign lands, the CERT people are always ready to help each of us and help the, at times, overloaded police and fire department. So with that, thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next on the agenda is item 1D6, presentation of a proclamation declaring the week of April 10th through April 16th, 2022 as Public Safety Telecommunicators Week. And Erin Cooper is here to present this item.
Good evening. Whereas National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week acknowledges and honors the men and women in this vital career whose knowledge and professionalism to make critical decisions, obtain necessary information, and quickly dispatch needed aid is so greatly relied upon. And whereas in an emergency, Americans depend on 911, and each and every day dispatchers answer desperate calls for help, responding with services that save the lives and property of citizens in need of assistance. And whereas these public safety dispatchers are more than anonymous voices on the telephone and radio, they are professionals who play a crucial role ensuring that public safety resources are deployed in an effective and timely manner to protect our citizens and community. And whereas Simi Valley Police Department dispatchers serve our citizens daily, and the work of those dedicated individuals in emergency situations is invaluable. And each of these men and women deserve heartfelt appreciation and honor. Now, therefore, April 10 through April 16, 2022, is hereby proclaimed Public Safety Telecommunicators Week in the city of Simi Valley to show appreciation and to recognize that the public health, safety, and well-being often depend upon the commitment and steadfast devotion public safety dispatchers have in serving our community. We count on them to answer the call 24 hours per day, 7 days per week. Dispatchers are some of the most important people you will never see. They are the unsung heroes of public safety, presented this 11th day of April 2022.
Okay, before I give the mic to the chief, I have to give you a quick story. Many, many years ago, I was hired as a firefighter for Ventura County, and I was stationed at Santa Paula where the dispatch center was. And I'm over there on the firefighter side of the station, and the captain says, go over and do the dispatching. You can't understand what your heart does when you're told to go do the dispatching. That means anybody in Ventura County that calls for help, I'm going to have to figure out where they are. There's just a list of things to ask them, and I got to do that with my heart bouncing out of my... I'd much rather go on a fire any day than be a dispatcher because the dispatcher's the one at the very, very root of the situation. And how you folks do it, I'll never know. But the chief's going to explain to us how you do it.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say thank you to our dispatchers, but I also want to reach out and show that you're seeing other parts of the police department here tonight. It's not just the police officers that are out in the field, which are vitally important, but there's a whole structure behind them. You have volunteers, we have explorers, we have our dispatchers. You just saw a presentation on earthquake preparedness. That's our emergency services coordinator that puts together the CERT program and keeps the city ready to go for an emergency. So the police department and the officers in the field, that's one part of what is a big team working together. And when that 911 line lights up, they are a first responder, even though they're in the station and you'll never see them, you'll hear them. So I want to thank them, and I want to thank the whole staff, for the work they're doing and making it possible for us to go out and keep this a safe community. So thank you.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next on the agenda is item 1D7, presentation of a proclamation declaring the week of April 3rd through April 9th, 2022 as Library Week. And Anna Medina is here to present this item.
Good evening, Mayor Mashburn and members of the City Council. We are very proud of our Simi Valley Public Library, the service it provides to the public, and its importance in our community. At this time, I would like to ask Kelly Bealey, the Simi Valley Public Library Director, and library staff Stephanie Irby, Bella DiFilippo, Jesus Hernandez, and Dave Rosenberg to come forward to accept the following proclamation. Whereas libraries are accessible and inclusive places that foster a sense of connection and build community. And whereas libraries connect people to technology, providing access to broadband internet, computers, and training that are critical for accessing education and employment opportunities. And whereas libraries offer opportunities for everyone to connect with new ideas and become their best selves through access to multimedia content, programs, and classes, in addition to books. And whereas today's libraries and their services extend far beyond the four walls of a building, and everyone is welcome to use their resources. And whereas in times of crisis, libraries and library professionals play an invaluable role in supporting their communities, both in person and virtually. And whereas libraries strive to develop and maintain programs and collections that are as diverse as the populations they serve and ensure equity of access for all. And whereas to adapt to our changing world, libraries are expanding their resources and continuing to meet the needs of their patrons. And whereas libraries have long served as trusted and treasured institutions for all members of the community, regardless of race, ethnicity, creed, ability, sexual orientation, gender identity, or social economic status. And whereas libraries are cornerstones of democracy, promoting the free exchange of information and ideas for all. And whereas libraries, librarians, library workers, and supporters across America are celebrating National Library Week. Now therefore, April 3rd through 9th, 2022 is hereby proclaimed Library Week in the city of Simi Valley to show appreciation of and to recognize the vital role the Simi Valley Public Library and its staff play in our community. All residents are encouraged to visit the Simi Valley Public Library to take advantage of the wonderful library resources available. Because of you, libraries transform lives and communities.
I'll hold the mic for Kelly.
I just want to say thank you to our city council, city staff, our friends of the Simi Valley Public Library for the support, which makes it possible for us to do the great work that's being done. And one of the things that we're seeing coming out of the COVID period is that the library is becoming more and more a place for an actual place, a physical place for the community to gather. So we really love to see things like the YES, Youth Employment Services Board Job Fair happening at the library, elections happening there, blood drives. This is a place for the community of Simi Valley to do all of these great things that we do together. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next on the agenda is item 1D8, presentation of a proclamation declaring April 22nd, 2022 as Earth Day, and Heidi DiNardo is here to present this item.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. Last one. The Earth Day proclamation reads as follows. Whereas Simi Valley is a vision of great natural beauty and the community takes great pride in preserving the beautiful surroundings, and whereas globally there are issues that threaten that environment and its natural beauty, and whereas communities around the world have developed initiatives to reverse these threats to the environment, and whereas all people, regardless of race, gender, income, or geography, have the right to a healthy, sustainable environment, and whereas the people of Simi Valley stand together with all the world's interests to preserve and protect the environment locally and globally, and whereas Earth Day has been recognized as a day to proclaim a commitment to environmental protection that is carried out throughout the year. Now therefore, April 22nd, 2022 is hereby proclaimed Earth Day to encourage all Simi Valley residents, businesses, and institutions to support and participate in Earth Day activities in recognition of our commitment to our local and global environment. Presented this 11th day of April, 2022. Thank you.
Well, I'm sure whoever was going to receive this is out protecting our earth. And also, each of us share the responsibility of protecting our earth. Last time I checked, we all live on earth. So Simi Valley is doing its part, and we will continue to do its part. And I'm sure with your help that we can achieve great things in the future in protecting our earth. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next on the agenda is item 2, public statements on appointments, special presentations, and informational reports. Mr. Mayor, we do not have any speaker cards for this item. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next on the agenda is item 3A1, appointments to the Community Projects Grant Review Committee, and Jennifer Del Toro and Mara Mulch are here to present this item.
The City Council created the Community Projects Grant Review Committee to review applications and provide funding recommendations to the City Council on the distribution of grant funding of up to $150,000. The review committee is comprised of 7 representatives from each of the 4 neighborhood councils, the Youth Council, the Council on Aging, and the community at large. Each of the advisory boards nominated representatives at their regular meetings in March and in April. An open recruitment for the community at large member position began on March 2nd and ended on March 15th. Councilmember Judge and Councilmember Lebanos conducted interviews on March 24th and nominated 1 representative. A total of 7 nominees are being recommended to serve on the review committee, with terms commencing immediately and concluding when the City Council awards the fiscal year 2022-23 funding. A few of the nominees are present this evening. As I call your name, please come forward. Representing Neighborhood Council Number 1, Rainford Hunter. Representing Neighborhood Council Number 2, Dimitri Erman. Representing Neighborhood Council Number 3, Sarah Rosario. Representing Neighborhood Council Number 4, Bobby Calderon. Representing the Council on Aging, Marietta Sperry. Representing the Youth Council, Mateos Brokey. Representing the community at large, Marissa Latham French. It is recommended that the City Council approve and the mayor appoint these 7 nominees to the Community Projects Grant Review Committee. This concludes the report, and staff is available if there are any questions. Thank you.
Mayor, but you're not over there, so you can't see my questions. Can I ask a question? Thank you. My question for staff is, once these volunteers are appointed, if there is a conflict of interest, will they recuse themselves?
We initially, before the nominations, we vetted the conflict of interest. So they were able to tell us if there were any.
Okay, so there's no potential grantees, so all the applications have been submitted, and there's no
And
conflicts.
they were given a listing of the organizations that applied before the nominations came forward.
Thank you.
May I make a motion?
What? Yes, I just want to say
I'm sorry.
I just want to say thank you to these 3 people of the 7 that are standing here, including Mateus, who's on the Youth Council. I just think it's commendable that you're putting the time in to make this right for our community, and so thank you. But go ahead with the motion.
Thank you. I move to approve and the mayor appoint the 7 nominees to the Community Projects Grant Review Committee with terms commencing upon appointment and concluding when the City Council awards the fiscal year 2022-23 community program grant funding.
Second.
Yes, please. How would you like me? Let me see. Proudly, yes. And
Mayor Pro Tem?
one of our volunteers. I used to really enjoy watching.
The motion passes unanimously. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next on the agenda is item 3A2, selection of City Council members to interview and nominate prospective Neighborhood Council Executive Board members. And Emily Habib is here to present this item.
Good evening, Mayor Mashburn and members of the City Council. Neighborhood Council Executive Board members are appointed to alternating 2-year terms, with approximately 1/3 of the seats expiring every 8 months. The next term of appointments is scheduled to commence on July 1st, 2022. A general recruitment to fill 20 positions was initiated on February 17th, 2022, and concluded on March 11th, 2022. The city received a total of 65 applications, 22 for Neighborhood Council 1, 13 for Neighborhood Council 2, 6 for Neighborhood Council 3, and 24 for Neighborhood Council 4. In previous recruitment cycles, the City Council has typically selected 2 subcommittees, each consisting of 2 City Council members. Staff is recommending that the City Council select 2 subcommittees, each consisting of 2 City Council members, to interview and nominate prospective Neighborhood Council Executive Board members. This concludes my report, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Excuse me. Councilmember Luevanos has a question.
I don't have a question. I just like to volunteer to interview neighborhood councils 1 and 3, since I interviewed 2 and 4 last time.
Okay.
I did 1 and 3 also last time, so I would prefer to do 2 and 4.
So could we say that you two will be 2 and 4?
She wants 1 and 3.
Yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry.
yeah, I did 2 and 4 last time, so I'd like to do 1 and 3 this time.
Okay.
I'm doing the opposite.
Okay.
Just to confuse you.
Can we take the others and do the opposite?
Happy to do wherever you want me to be.
You better not say that.
That's how you get voluntold away.
No, so,
I can volunteer for anyone.
okay, so straighten me out here. It'll be,
Mike and I will do 2 and 4,
okay?
and they'll do 1 and
Do
3.
1 and 3, yeah.
Okay,
work?
is that good with everybody?
Yep.
Okay,
All right. Do we need a motion?
that was easy.
Yeah, so we'll make a motion.
So I move that Councilmember Judge and Kavanaugh do neighborhood councils 2 and 4. Mayor Pro Tem Litzer and Councilmember Luevanos do neighborhood councils 1 and 3.
Second?
Motion and second, call for the vote.
The motion passes unanimously. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next on the agenda is item 3A3, selection of 2 City Council members to conduct Americans with Disabilities Act ADA Paratransit Advisory Committee interviews. And Ron Fuchiwaki is here to present this item.
Good evening, Mayor Mashburn and council members. This evening, staff is requesting the City Council select 2 council members to interview and nominate prospective ADA Paratransit Advisory Committee members. The committee meets quarterly, provides ongoing public input to agencies providing public transportations to individuals with disabilities. There will be 5 vacancies, 4 member status, and 1 alternate status on April 30th, 2022. A recruitment resulted in 6 applicants, and it is estimated the interviews may take up to 2 hours. Previously, Mayor Mashburn and Mayor Pro Tem Litzer served on the nomination committee last year. Staff is requesting the City Council select 2 council members to interview and nominate prospective ADA Paratransit Advisory Committee members. That concludes our report.
Thank you. I think Councilmember Luevanos, your name on here.
Yes, I'd like to
indicate-
volunteer, Mayor.
Huh?
I'd like to volunteer for these
Okay.
interviews.
Okay. And I will volunteer if no one else does. So. I'm sorry? I shouldn't have said that.
Yes, you should have said that.
Since you're missing out on neighborhood council, that would be lovely if you would do that.
Okay. Then
Motion,
So I
Mayor?
will so move that we nominate Mayor Mashburn and Councilmember Ruth Levinos to serve as the committee to interview for the Paratransit Advisory Committee.
I'll second.
motion and second, call for the vote.
The motion passes unanimously. Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council, next on the agenda is item 3B1, informational presentation by Youth Employment Service Advisory Board Chair Ryan Fowler.
I think that was actually 3C1.
3B.
Thank you, correct, 3C1.
All right. Good evening, Mayor Mashburn and members of the City Council. My name is Ryan Fowler. Thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening. My day job is as a program coordinator for the Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation and Institute. I work with students and young people in the areas of leadership, communication, and civic engagement. But I am here tonight in the capacity of my role as the chair of the Youth Employment Services Advisory Board, or YES. The City Council, in their wisdom, recognized the importance of assisting youth entering the workforce when they established the Youth Employment Service Advisory Board in 1982. The Youth Employment Service Advisory Board is comprised of 15 members and up to 3 alternates that include representatives of government agencies, schools, employers, and community members at large to discuss employment issues that relate to youth. Simi Valley is one of the few cities in the region that offers this type of service to prepare our young people for the jobs of the 21st century. I'm going to talk a little bit tonight about some different programs that we run and the work that we've done over the last year. So one of our main initiatives is the Job and Career Expo, and our first Job and Career Expo was held in 1987. Over the past 34 years, close to 26,000 youth have been served. Our 35th annual event is scheduled on Saturday, April 23rd from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And not only will it be our first time hosting the event in person since 2019, it will also be held for the first time at the Simi Valley Public Library. We are co-hosting this library takeover event with the Simi Valley Chamber of Commerce and the Simi Valley Public Library. The free event will feature practice interviews, on-site interviews with employers, exposure to career options, internship and volunteer opportunities, assistance with completing job applications, workstations to submit online job applications, and help writing resumes. This year, more than 60 employers and organizations are anticipated to participate in the job fair, and we are also expecting more than 200 job seekers of both teens and adults to attend. Our board's continued focus has been on workforce education for young people, and now in particular, connecting them with various career pathways. We have also co-sponsored a summer workshop series with the Simi Valley Public Library, which includes resume writing, entering the workforce and entrepreneurism, and interview skills. Last November, we hosted a volunteer fair at the Boys and Girls Club of Moore Park in Simi Valley. The free event was designed to connect local nonprofits and potential volunteers. We have also helped to conduct more than 100 mock interviews over this past year, including with students in the school district's Work Ability program. Our major program is, or one of our major programs, is facilitating the Interview Skills Workshop. In March, over 700 local students received training on work permits, application completion, digital first impression, appropriate interview attire, follow-up procedures, networking basics, the interview process and common questions, resume writing, workplace ethics, and best practices on leaving a job. Each participant also received a comprehensive, up-to-date supplemental interview skills workshop handbook to keep. Much of what our board is able to accomplish would not be possible without key collaborations with the Chamber of Commerce, the local business community, the Simi Valley Unified School District, and numerous community volunteers. Our Business Incubator Committee with the Chamber of Commerce, called Startup Simi, has continued to offer programming for budding entrepreneurs through its Inspire Entrepreneurship Speakers Series, with the most recent event held on March 24th. That interactive presentation focused on starting nonprofit organizations. We would like to thank Soaring Spirits International President and Founder, Michelle Neff Hernandez, for her insightful presentation on her journey from tragedy to building a global nonprofit that connects widowers with support and resources. I encourage you to check out startupsimi.com for the main takeaways from her presentation, as well as other helpful resources for entrepreneurs. Our call to action as a board, so to speak, is to encourage more local employers to hire youth, whether paid or as unpaid interns, to provide critical opportunities for our youth to build job skills, to offer job shadow experiences, to provide youth exposure to various career opportunities, and to get involved by participating in our job and career fair. The result of all this work is a robust and skilled labor force. Thank you for continuing to support the work of the YES Advisory Board and the YES program. We invite each of you to come to witness the work the board does by stopping by the Job and Career Expo on Saturday, April 23rd, or join us at our regular board meetings at 8:15 a.m. on the third Wednesday of each month in the City Hall Community Room. That's next Wednesday. I will see you all there.
All right.
Thank you for your time, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have about our YES program.
I would just like to make a statement. We do an awful lot of outreach to the local business community, and we constantly hear the need for young employees. And so you're providing that first step by preparing the youth that are going to go out and obtain these jobs. And so you're the number one cog in the wheel, if you will. And it's very much needed and very much appreciated by this city.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Lueminos.
Yes, I just have logistical questions because I've had people ask me, like, what's the age limit? So how young and how old for the Yes Fair? So can you answer that one
For
for
the
me?
job career fair,
Mhm.
typically it's 15 to about 22, but this year, because we're partnering with the Chamber of Commerce, we're really, a lot of the focus will be 15 to 22, but honestly, any age is welcome to come. We will have job opportunities for all ages.
Okay, and then the other question I keep getting, I have a lot of young people that ask me lots of questions.
That's what we're here
It's
for.
the teacher hat, so. They also want to know, do they have to bring a work permit? Like, do they already have to have their work permit?
They do not, no.
Okay, so they should come dressed, ready for interviews with resumes.
Correct, yes. Come dressed in professional attire. That's what we work with them on. And ready, some interviewers do, or some employers do interviews right there on the spot. So be prepared for that.
And where is this going to take place?
At the library.
Okay, and one more question.
Yes.
We do have quite a few college students. We do have quite a few, families who have college students that are away and they're looking for summer jobs. So there was a question that was posed to me by several people. Can we do interviews via Zoom, or how is there a way, or if it's not a possibility now, in the future, is there a possibility for them to participate via Zoom? Because we do have a lot of college students who come home. A lot of them finish like literally in 3 weeks, at the beginning of May or the end of April, and they want to come home to Simi Valley and work or volunteer. So.
Absolutely, and that's one of the things during the pandemic that we worked on was how you interview over Zoom and those skills. And so last year, because of the pandemic, we couldn't hold the job fair in person. We actually did it completely virtual. We had a little virtual job fair, and they could come and meet employers, and they could do interviews over Zoom and that kind of thing. And so I don't know that we will do one that elaborate, but I think we will still have job information available online that they'll be able to access.
Right. And with our partnership with the library, library staff is actually going to be creating a web landing page that will list the employers that are there and how to get in touch with them after the event.
Okay, so if they can't come in person, but they want to come volunteer or have a summer job when they come home from college, then they can do that.
And I just wanted to tie in, because you asked about work permits. So they can't actually get a work permit until they are offered a job, but we strongly encourage that they go and talk to their work experience teacher to make sure that they're eligible for a work permit in advance, because nothing's worse than going through the whole process and then not being able to actually take the
I
job.
know that because I've done work experience, but I had students who asked, so sometimes I ask these questions not because I don't know the answer, but I want the public to know the answer.
Yep, and then if it's during the summer, then they actually don't need a work permit, so that,
And
I
they
mean, they
can-
need a work permit, but they don't have to meet the eligibility requirements, sorry.
And they can work up
do
to
need a
40
work
hours
permit.
a week, right, in the summer? Is that
In the
correct?
summer, they can work 40 hours a week, correct?
Okay, great. Thank you so much. And is this, I'm sorry, one more question since you're here.
Yep.
Ms. Tingdang. Is the Youth Council going to be advertising this on their IG?
Yes, they are.
All right, thank
And
you.
they'll, youth council students will actually, or members will be at the event too. They volunteer, so they will be there promoting their open recruitment to be a
Wonderful.
youth
IG and
council
Twitter?
member. And they
Yes?
go and help students that might need a little extra encouragement to go up to the different booths.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Actually, Councilmember Luevanos asked all the questions I was prepared, that I was thinking of, but I did want to include a special thank you to Ryan for being willing to chair this and take this project on. I know it's a labor of love and appreciation. Don't think there's much compensation for this one, but thank
this
you.
role, none.
Yeah,
Thank
right. No, thank you. It makes a huge difference for our community. I know my son has participated in the past, and as I'm sitting here, he's going to be participating again. He just doesn't know it yet. So thank you for doing this. I appreciate it.
Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council, next on the agenda is item 5, public statements. This is a time for public statements on all items other than public hearings, appointments, and informational reports. Speakers will be called on in the order in which their card was submitted to speak for this public statements item 5 for a period of no more than 3 minutes each. Persons addressing the City Council are requested to state their name and community of residence for the record. The first speaker is Judy Castaneda.
Valley for 52 years, and unbelievably in the same house. We've maintained our property and made significant improvements, making the choice to stay in our home and make it what we wanted, to stay, not going to something more lavish, but happy in our home. We have always owned a trailer or a motorhome, so you know where I'm going with this. And we have raised our kids traveling and camping because we enjoyed the unity it developed and it was affordable. Approximately 10 years ago, not sure of the actual date, the city issued a new ordinance that all RVs must be removed from the residential streets. We were pleased with the new ordinance because we felt it was a hazard having them located where it was unsafe for traffic. At that time, the requirements were on the garage side of the property or the other front side of the property after meeting the following requirements. Trailers or non-motorized RVs must be on gravel or cement. Motorized RVs must be on cement due to possible leakage. We were quick to put cement strips on the opposite side of our property, as well as gravel to meet the requirements. The side of our garage, where our driveway is, and the area between our garage and the side wall is not large enough to put an RV in that area. We have a 30-foot fifth wheel trailer. The area on the garage side will not adequately handle our trailer. We are currently planning on filling the strips where our RV is located with cement, so we'll have a solid slab of cement. We have always kept our lawns and our house neat and upgraded as needed, and very proud of that. This new ordinance under consideration will make it almost impossible for us to keep our RV. We would have difficulty paying for a storage space, and after making dozens of calls, there are no available RV storage spaces within approximately 20-mile radius. Besides that, they do not have a waiting list. You need to call every few days to see if there's a space available. I feel they should grandfather the ordinance for those of us who have met the requirements over the years. Many of us did the necessary expensive upgrades when we were younger, so we would be in a good situation when we retired and we'd be living on a fixed income. There are properties that have tall weeds and homes that have multiple families and have up to 9 cars parked on the streets. Many times we can't even find a place for our visitors to park in front of our house. I guess I see so many other issues of concern. Please keep those issues a consideration for those of us who have silently learned to deal with it. I guess I'm interested in fixing the problems that exist, but don't break us in the process. It is sad that the world situations is such that life is difficult enough. Price of gas, groceries, and many necessary items, they're unavailable to purchase. Riots and shootings in the streets, homelessness, COVID, and global warming.
Ma'am,
That we have to worry about where we can or can't park our RVs on our property.
time's up, ma'am.
Oh, the light turned red. What do you
Honest,
know?
I don't have a trigger either.
Hey, you know what? I'm down to where I'm saying
Well,
thank you for
know
listening
what?
to me
You're
tonight.
gonna hear so much like what you said, and I encourage you to stick around.
Okay, and I also just wanted to say I'm not bragging, but I'm 81 years old, so traveling and being able to use my RV is very important to me. Thank you very much for your time. I didn't see the light turn red.
Brian Kane?
Thank you. Hello, excellent testing. Good evening, Mayor Mashburn and members of the City Council. I am Brian Kane, and this past fall, the council was gracious enough to appoint me as an executive board member of Neighborhood Council 4. I certainly appreciate this appointment. I'm here tonight to talk about street maintenance. I have here the April 2nd edition of the Simi Valley Acorn, and there are 2 headlines that grab my attention: setting goals and priorities, and that the city council, the city officials are pleased with the budget outlook as the end of the year approaches. And the other article is funding falls short for needed road improvements. I pulled some of the numbers out of here. I know we don't want to talk much about numbers, but it looks like we're funding $4.4 million for street maintenance. And if I add the numbers correctly here, $17.4 million is needed to bring the roads up to acceptable levels. So that's 25%. And my numbers might be off, but that's my interpretation of the numbers from these two articles. I do also see that we have an $8.7 million surplus. So, I'd like to talk just a little bit. New homeowners have purchased, $1 million homes. We have about an $800,000 median price at the moment. Pavement on Sequoia up to some of these $1 million homes is crackling apart up near where I live and up in Runkle Canyon above me. These people are all paying big taxes, and the roads should really be maintained in solid fashion. Another example is that as I drive the entrance to the city of Simi Valley on Olson Road, I see the entrance sign for Welcome to Simi Valley, and where the road was really nice in Thousand Oaks, you cross right in and it gets bumpy and damaged. And that's just not a good self-image for our beautiful city. And the people buying homes, they might be getting comments like, well, you're paying all this money in taxes and they're not maintaining the roads. What's going on? So I would like to ask the City Council to address this. I know there are substantial efforts underway regarding street maintenance. Nonetheless, I'm stating that I am not satisfied with the current condition on our streets. I would personally, I retired recently. I was a production manager building satellites for DirecTV and GPS and things, but I'm here to volunteer. I'm part of Neighborhood Council 4, as I mentioned. I'm volunteering or continuing to volunteer in my church. And if there's something I can do to assist you in this, I'd be happy to hear what you have in mind. I don't want to simply be a complainer, but I'm available to support this effort at your direction. I certainly want to do these things and make our city a more lovely place. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
John
And thank you for
Lapper?
the heads up, the letter in advance. That is helpful.
You're welcome. You're welcome, Mr. Mayor.
John Lepper?
John Lapper, Simi Valley, Mayor Mashburn, and City Council members. Today I will speak about this City Council and their misguided attempt to silence adversaries and inconvenience their constituents. First, number one, you got rid of constituents' rights to have public comments read at the City Council meeting for those who couldn't attend. Two, then you placed public comments as agenda item 5, causing many to wait up to 3 hours for the opportunity to speak to our City Council for 3 minutes. Number 3, then you got rid of Zoom public comments, meaning the only way a constituent could speak to our City Council with their precious 3 minutes of First Amendment free speech was to show up in person on a Monday night and wait up to 3 hours to be heard. Tonight it's only an hour. Some of you believe Councilman Judge and other City Council members' concerns about others having to wait for their time to present. I believe it was an organized attempt to silence certain adversaries in town by making it most cumbersome to communicate with our City Council. To expect a concerned citizen of Simi Valley to be able to attend a Monday night meeting to be heard is disappointing. Many have family obligations, jobs, college, are taking care of children and family members, are handicapped, or have an injured leg as I do. The staff report offers 3 options. Only option 3 places the public comments first, thus addressing my concerns for concerned residents of Simi Valley. The staff report cites 22 meetings in the last year, with only 5 not having a public hearing. What the staff report did not offer was how many public comments were presented under Agenda 5, which is a vital number for the City Councils to ponder while making this decision. What the staff report did not mention was the effects of COVID-19 on the meeting types, including Zoom, the last year. I have noticed most meetings with Agenda 5 public comments number 5 or less, resulting in up to 3 hours of wait time for only 15 minutes of public comments. I strongly suggest that the public statements be addressed first with a limit of maybe 10 to 15 people and the rest delayed until after any pressing public hearings. This council has to do so in the past. One would also strongly recommend that Zoom meetings comments be resumed. Even a Zoom poll on conservative Facebook page, See Me Strong No Rules, had 84% saying Zoom comments should be allowed. Resumption of public comments submitted by noon the day of the council meeting, being read at the council meeting under agenda item 5, public statements. I find this most necessary as our city council members have chosen not to respond to or open public statements submitted by email. Shame on you, council members who have done so. Lastly, I'd like to thank all to visit me at the Democratic booth at our wonderful Simi Valley Street Fair, April 30th, put on by our wonderful Simi Chamber of Commerce. Thank you, City Council.
Rocky Roads?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council. My name is Rocky Rhodes. I'm a resident of Simi Valley now for 12 years, up in the Bridle Path area. I just had a brief comment tonight to say thank you for the Chamber of Commerce and all of the participants in the State of the City address. I thought it was fantastic. The meet and greet before, so we get the socializing in, as well as the presentation that included all the different bodies. I would highly encourage that type of tradition to continue because it really was informative for the entire city. And with that, thank you.
Thank you.
Douglas Bamforth?
Don't count me yet.
He saw me with my
You're halfway through.
I'll take the rest of their time. Anyway, good evening. Boy, what a program tonight. Those kids with the robotics, boy, I need them when my phone goes out. I don't know. What I'd like to speak about, though, is a problem that we now have in Simi, which everyone is aware of, is people stealing from cars, the little, not mufflers, but...
catalytic converters.
Yeah. And I was reading in the paper, and they said that as long as that the police department was chasing him up to the top of the hill, I guess, and but once they start going too fast, that's suspended and they let them go. Well, yeah, it's maybe not life-threatening for most people, but in this city, there's a lot of us who have been blessed, but there's a lot of people who right now who are suffering with the high gas prices and all this other stuff. And if they were to have that taken off of their car, it would be just another burden. And I think something needs to be done. We can't just keep allowing these people to stray back to the little rat's hole. And anyway, it's great to see anybody without masks except for Ruth over here. Of course, my hearing aids, which I can wear now because I don't have to wear the mask. And but I don't have a setting on my phone that goes to my things for people that wear masks, so I don't hear you. I'm just letting you know. And that's it. That's all I have to say. Ooh, that's 54 seconds. Save it for next week.
Bruce Boyer?
Thank you, Doug.
Howdy. I'm Bruce Boyer. I live in Chatsworth Lake Manor. I'm a candidate for Ventura County Clerk of Elections. And I want to thank everybody that showed up tonight for public comment. You guys give me a tough act to follow, but I'll try. Well, I'm here to talk to the City Council, the same thing we talk to the City Council about every single meeting. Where and when are we going to have a public forum so we, the people, can communicate with you, the City Council, as to the issue of our Second Amendment? Second Amendment is a right to keep and bear arms. A concealed carry permit holder still can't carry a rifle on the street. Nope. And who actually has a permit? Retired police officers like Mike Judge. Okay. Is he special? Now, the California Constitution says that any law that discriminates amongst persons is unconstitutional. We're not allowed classes of people. We don't have kings and queens. We don't have people that are exempt from the law. But the law says we can't carry a firearm in public, not even out our front door, unless we're behind an 8-foot fence. That's not public. It's not a right. But police officers are exempted. Now, I think my judge is very skilled in handling a firearm, but I know veterans that I think are very skilled as well, too. And a right doesn't depend upon one's, quote, skill level, does it? No. I might have a better ability to speak than somebody else, but we all have a First Amendment. It is a right to keep and bear arms. But yet it doesn't exist in California. Well, it does in 3 counties now. It could exist in Simi Valley. As a candidate, I swore an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Every council member swore the same oath. Uphold and defend the Constitution, our right to keep and bear arms. Well, if you can't carry it in public, you're not bearing anything. This City Council could remedy this. You could set as an agenda item a public forum so we know where you and candidates for City Council and mayor stand as to our Second Amendment rights, and you'll know what the public has to say. Now, Councilmember Judge is the only one that I have heard respond to what we have talked about. And he said, the city doesn't have the resources to process concealed carry permits. Until I mentioned the fact that the chief of police could issue concealed carry permits, probably only 3 people in the room knew that. They thought the sheriff was the only one who could do it. You could process concealed carry permits at $6 an hour at $600 a piece. The city would be rolling in money and we would have our liberty. As to the issue of the RV parkings, if I had another 3 minutes, I would tell these people how the laws that this city has violates the rights and the state of California's vehicle code. Thank you.
Thank you.
Heather Romeo.
Hello. I don't know how I'm supposed to follow that. So my name is Heather Romeo. This is my first city council meeting ever, so I'm really excited. And I've been a resident of Simi Valley almost my entire life. But I am here to bring up the issue of glyphosate, which is more commonly known as Roundup, which is sprayed in our public spaces here in Simi Valley. So for those of you that don't know, in 2015, the World Health Organization identified glyphosate, which is the main ingredient in Roundup, as a probable carcinogen. Monsanto, which is the owner of Roundup, has paid out billions of dollars to claimants that have been affected. So in my experience, during the pandemic, while spending more time at parks, with my son, I have a 4-year-old son and another one on the way, I noticed the spraying in multiple parks. And when I noticed the spraying the first time, I approached the person who was spraying to find out exactly what they were spraying, because I didn't know. So I approached the man, and he told me certainly it was Roundup. So I was kind of taken aback because I knew the dangers of it, and I just assumed that it wasn't being sprayed in public spaces. So I guess that was kind of ignorant on my part. But I noticed more and more that it was being sprayed in other parks in Simi Valley. And again, there was no signage, so once it was sprayed, people wouldn't know where it was sprayed, and so kids could go and play in that area and not know that they're being exposed. I reached out to the Parks and Rec District multiple times before receiving a response. And once I did receive a response, it was kind of close-ended, stating that there was a discussion back in 2016. So knowing there was a discussion means that people knew it was kind of an issue, so there was a discussion about it. But they said that Roundup was most effective and most budget-friendly. So I'm here to say that there are cities throughout the US that have banned or severely restricted glyphosate, a couple here in California. And I'm hoping that you all can put this on your agenda in the future so we can have more discussions about it and hopefully ban it in Simi Valley, because Mayor, you said yourself that we need to protect our earth. I think you said it just a few minutes ago, actually.
Yeah, I actually
with Earth Day
remember.
coming
I
up.
know I'm getting old, but I remember that.
I wrote it down. So I want to be part of the solution as well. I don't want to just stand up here and say it's a problem, but I want community involvement and to be part of the solution. Anyway, that's it.
Thank you.
Lee Chapman. Lee Chapman.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I just wanted to first start off by saying thank you all for your service. I think you guys have all done a really great job with our community. I'm not here to yell at you. I'm just here to voice a concern, specifically about the off-street parking ordinance that's being reintroduced or reinforced. I'm a second generation family from Simi Valley, raising the third, who's here. It's her bedtime now, and I thought it was important enough to come down and just talk to you guys really quickly about it. I've spent 16 years in law enforcement, and we currently have an RV that is not parked according to the ordinance as it is now placed. It's been there for a number of years prior to the ordinance, and we don't really have the ability to move our RV anywhere else. And so with that, I'm trying to keep this short and sweet, but it's gonna put a big financial burden on my family. We, being in law enforcement, and especially with the city of Simi Valley, we're big. There's nurses, EMS, law enforcement, firefighters, everybody who use their RVs to take their family on vacations. They can't afford to do these sandals vacations or these big cruises or whatnot, and we use this to take time during spring break like we just did, and took my family out on a nice little vacation. And so I'm afraid that if this ordinance continues, it's gonna put a financial burden on us, number one, but number two, we're not gonna be able to keep our RV, which is gonna break my kids' heart because they've been going RVing ever since they were, we went on our first trip right after they were born, so I just wanted to bring it up to you guys. I know I'm not the only one, so I'm not going to beat a dead horse, but I really would like you to think about what I said and just maybe reconsider. This is not a black and white issue. It's kind of gray, and I don't think this is a one-size-fit-all, hey, this is how it needs to be. The front of our house is very well maintained. Our RV's on an RV pad, on cement. I understand that they want to keep the community looking good, but I think there needs to be some exceptions. I don't think this can be a one-size-fits-all. So in my 16 years of law enforcement, I don't look at things as black and white. There's a lot of gray in the middle, and I just hope that maybe that you can take a look around and maybe look at some of the gray and maybe make some amendments so that people won't be in such a burden and a bind like I am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, can I just do a real quick disclosure? I've been camping with them, and that's my friend Abby. So hi, Abby.
Melissa Ospina.
Good evening. I'm not really good at writing speeches, so I just have some notes that I'm just going to kind of read off to you. It's about the glyphosate. So the glyphosate is in Roundup, and it's from the company Monsanto. It can be an endocrine disruptor, so if you're exposed to it, it could come out later in years. The USDA says that glyphosate has a half-life in soil from 3 to 249 days. This means it's possible for it to remain in the soil for possibly a year. So when they're spraying our schools and the parks and stuff, and they put one just printed out piece of paper hooked to a fence, and then that night it gets wet and moist outside, and in the morning the paper's all curled up, nobody knows it's been sprayed. They don't close our parks or our schools, not even for one day. The spraying just goes on. I live next door to an elementary school here. My daughter is a non-Hodgkin's cancer survivor. I was blaming it all on Rocketine, but I can't do that anymore. Rocketine may have caused her autoimmune disease, but getting sprayed in her bedroom window every day or a couple times a week, like what was going on, could be a culprit there. It's absorbed through the eyes, the skin, nose, and the mouth. So we're getting the runoff from Rocketine, we're getting the Aliso Canyon, we have DDTs still in our soil from the orchards. The district is spraying glyphosate. We're just this huge bowl here of chemicals going around. Literally, it's all going into the water supply. For Golden State Water is supplying up to 33% of Simi Valley, and they're putting up to 70% of groundwater into the water. We have to start making a difference somewhere. Anybody that knows me knows that all three of my kids have problems. One of them had her teeth taken out at 2 years old. The other one has a skin disorder. And my other daughter had Hodgkin's lymphoma. Also, my daughter's best friend had Hodgkin's lymphoma. I have met so many teens in Simi Valley that had Hodgkin's lymphoma or non-Hodgkin's lymphoma caused by glyphosate. These were just my reminders. DDTs from the orchards, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. This is a letter from Aaron Brockovich in regards to all of the chemicals here. My daughter diagnosed the day before her 18th birthday with cancer. Real estate documents that you have to sign when you buy a home with disclosures about Rocketine and the chemicals in them. Living near aerospace facilities can cause you within 2 miles to have all these different cancers. My daughter during her cancer treatment. Very sad. The movie Toxic Shit that just came out and the music video
Could you wrap it up?
about Simi Valley. In the Dark of the Valley that just came out about Simi Valley.
Ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael Kopp.
Hello, my name is Michael Kopp. I'm a resident of Simi Valley. I moved here many years ago. I bought a house and I thought it was my house. I thought I had control over my house. I thought I had control over my front yard, my backyard, and the private areas of my house. I have come to learn that's not correct. When I moved in, I was very proud to be a resident here. I bought an RV and I tried to park it in my driveway on the side of my garage, but my house has a median strip which narrows the street in front of my house to the point that if you park in front of my house, there's a good chance you'll lose your mirror and the whole side of the car will be taken off by somebody who runs away because the street is so narrow. I've driven Simi Valley. It's the only median that restricts the house, the street to where I have to park. Also, instead of having a 20-foot motorhome that I could get into my driveway, I now have a 40-foot diesel pusher that there's no way I can back that down this narrow street and get it into my driveway. It's not going to happen. So I was sent letters stating that I couldn't have that. And what I did was I poured concrete on the other side where the median stops, and it allows me a straight shot in for 42 feet of parking. I've had the motorhome parked there for over a year. Nobody said a word to me. I wanted to let you know I'm a retired deputy sheriff. I was disabled, and now I'm a deputy building inspector and have been for the last 34 years, and concrete is my field. I never knew that you had to request a permit to put a slab on grade because, correct me if I'm wrong, I've never heard of a slab or a driveway falling on somebody and killing them. So my question is, I went and talked to a man by the name of Sean Gibson, and he's in the Planning Commission, and I told him that I thought I was good for an exemption on this. He told me for me to file an exemption that would allow me possibly to continue to park on the other side where the garage is not. And really, I can't believe that that's going, that is stupid not to allow people to park on both sides of their property. But anyways, he told me it cost $5,500. And I think that that is silencing me. It's cost prohibitive, and it's stopping me from being able to address this situation. And also, he told me I have exceeded the 50-50 for landscape and concrete area. I'm at 60-40. So I ask you, I have a beautiful front yard. My neighbors are here, and I keep it well landscaped. But why 50-50? What's wrong with 60-40? I got to be missing something. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, that was the last speaker card.
Yeah, if you'd run down and fill out a blue. Yeah, or in fact, you can speak and then fill it out as soon as you're done, please.
Hello, City Government. My name is Thomas Eicher, and I am a resident for over 30 years here in Simi Valley. I'm here to talk about the off-street parking as well. I do have an RV, which does fit in my driveway in the proper space, but I have 3 kids that drive cars, so I need a place to park vehicles. I was given a notice in the mail recently that my car is not lawfully parked in my driveway, which has been professionally landscaped and poured. And I'm just curious to ask the council if this is a previous ordinance, and this previous ordinance was not enforced. I'm asking, why is it being enforced now? And, the randomness of it, it seems to be arbitrary. And my question is to you, I don't know if you're going to answer me today or if this is public comment only, why is enforcement so important now and not 10 years ago?
Yeah, you're right. We can't respond to you, but it's out of the Brown Act law, not out of not wanting.
No, that's fine. And so if someone does respond to you in email or some way, is there a way to get response back from the council members?
I think just hang on, and I think you'll see this back on the agenda.
Okay, on the agenda tonight or another day?
It'd have to be another day,
Right.
because there has to be the public notice.
Okay, great. All right, well, thank you for listening. Appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next on the agenda is item 5A, City Council comments regarding public statements.
First off, I'd like to say thank you for the method in which everybody spoke about what was on their mind tonight, in particular the RV situation. That could get very emotional, and it didn't, but we definitely listened to you. So thank you for that. And with that, we'll hear the limited comments that we can make back to you on those subjects that were brought up tonight. We'll start with Mayor Pro Tem Elaine Litzner.
Thank you, Mayor. I think that you're correct that this will come back on the agenda with regards to RV. I believe in 9B tonight there may be discussion with regards to Judy, the first speaker who talked about grandfathering ordinances. In my understanding, I thought there was some type of grandfathering based, and so we need some clarification. So I'm sure that there will be further discussion, and it is clear that the reason for enforcement is for aesthetic purposes, but obviously we want to meet those objectives, certainly not to torture or punish our residents in any way. And so I'm sure that there will be further discussion, as the mayor has indicated. With regards to Mr. Kane, who spoke about the situation of the roads, thank you for your talking. You referenced Runkle Canyon specifically. Depending on where the roads are, it may not yet be considered city roads yet, depending on the development. I may be mistaken about that, but my understanding is not all of that has yet been turned over to the city, and so we don't have responsibility. We can talk further, but my thought is that we should connect you with Mr. Ron Fujimoto and have you as a volunteer in his department, and I'm sure he would love to put you to work. So we can talk about that offline. Lots of other things can be said. We appreciate those who spoke about chemical safety, and I'm sure there'll be further discussion about that. And just the last thing I would say to Mr. Lapper, some of your comments with regards to, obviously that's on the agenda for tonight, and there are actually some thoughts that you and I are thinking alike on, so there'll be more to come. Stick around. That was it. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Kavanaugh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of quick comments. It was Melissa and then Heather were speaking about the roundup, and she said she contacted the Park District. I was on the Park District Board in 2016, so I was part of that discussion. There was a lot to it, and we did stop using Roundup for a time period, and they did a testing. That was the last I heard of it. So in reality, we need to get all three entities together on that. So it would have to be the city, the school district, and the Park District, because I know we talked about notifications and keeping it away and not spraying on days kids were at school. You know, there were a lot of different things that we talked about. So I'll get together with you after that, or on that afterwards. And then I did just want to compliment Mr. Kopp. You do have a beautiful yard. My daughter lives around the corner, so disclosure. But I understand there is a median there, and it is a difficult situation. So, but we are going to be discussing most likely some of these other things later. I'm an RV family, so I was happy to hear everyone's comments, and we're all taking it to heart. So thank you.
Councilmember Luevanos.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, with regard to the State of City address that Mr. Rhodes mentioned, I'm glad that it was recorded this time. I really wish it would be in the evenings because many of us work during the day, but I'm glad that it was recorded so that those who were unable to be there during the day because we were working it is recorded, right, Mr. Gabler, so that they can still watch it? Yes. But I hope that in the future it will be in the evening so that those of us who work during the day can see it. I agree that Zoom comments should be brought back. That is part of our mission statement. With regards to the, fixing the roads, either we need to increase revenues or we need to cut expenditures. We did budget $5 million already. In addition of the American Rescue Plan funds that we got, the $15 million, so a third of that we already approved to go towards fixing the roads. We're actually going to talk about a contract for that later on in the meeting. I will use my PE voice through my mask to make sure that everyone can hear me. I talk all day long through my mask, and my students are able to hear me, so I will just get right up on that microphone and make sure everyone can hear me, Mr. Banforth. I just want to remind everyone, we are here as a community, to be with each other. There are no absolute rights. The preamble, the Constitution says that we're here to promote the general welfare, so all of our individual rights are limited by promoting the general welfare of everybody else's rights, the entire community. So yes, the RV ordinance, You know, there was a period that we said we're going to educate everyone so that they know that enforcement is coming, and that's why that is happening. But we had discussion and we did make those decisions. Thank you.
Councilman Judge, did you want to speak?
I did, but everybody covered what I wanted to say. I just basically want to say thank you for all for coming out, and you will hear more about the RV ordinance later.
Okay, my turn. Mr. Kane, you said you weren't satisfied. Neither am I. And neither is this council, really, or the city. And we're working on it, and we recently tried explaining some of the process that takes so long. So I think we're all on the same page. It's just, how are we going to get there? And we are working to get there. Mr. Lapper, I think you're wrong in much of what you said. To the ladies that brought up the roundup, I'll call it, that encouraged me, because for so long we've been discussing Santa Susana Field Lab as being the sole cause of any issues here. And the whole time I've said, please, let's look further just in case there's something else. Not knowing if there is or isn't, not knowing if Santa Susana Field Lab is, I'm not coming to a conclusion. I'm just saying thank you for looking further. I think that's appropriate. Mr. Kopp, he's left, I believe. We certainly didn't silence you. That was never an intention. And that goes back to some of the things that Mr. Lapper said. We don't do that up here. We don't silence people without publicly doing it. And so with that, I'll keep those comments because my city attorney will be on me shortly if we keep talking. So thank you very much. Oh, last thing, I'm sorry. 9B is where we asked for different new items to be put on the agenda. I think we're going to have a contest between everybody up here on who puts on the agenda first to revisit the RV issue. So if you go home, check later, I think you're going to see that we're going to put that back on the agenda. And once we do, then we'll rediscuss it. So stay tuned.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next on the agenda is item 6, the consent calendar. And there are 2 resolutions for your consideration this evening. Consent item 4, resolution number 2022-18, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Simi Valley confirming and renewing the proclamation of the existence of a local emergency. And resolution number 2022-19, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Simi Valley confirming the existence of a local emergency and authorizing remote teleconference meetings of the legislative bodies of the City of Simi Valley pursuant to Brown Act provisions.
Okay. Councilmember Luevanos.
Mayor, I'd like to pull consent items 1, 3, and 5.
3, 5 for Ruth. And Mayor Pro Tem Litster.
I'm not pulling it, but on item 4, there needs to be a correction in that report, which says that the state of emergency by the state was extended to June 30th, 2022, which is critical to the report. It currently lists March 31st, 2022, and if that's the case, then the reason for continuing the emergency ceases to exist. So I want to be sure that that date gets corrected in the report. That's all.
Okay. Mr. City Manager.
I made a mistake. It should be June 30th, 2022, on the first paragraph of the staff report.
We'll talk to the city attorney and then address this. Okay. All right. First item, let's just go ahead and do 1, 3, and 5. 1.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. I don't know who's addressing 1. Hi. So I'm, on page 2 of the report, it says that we're increasing the amount of the contract by $100,000. I was hoping the contract would be attached. Believe it or not, I like reading contracts. Okay, so, and the reason why I wanted to see that is I wanted some transparency in terms of what are we spending this additional $100,000 on, because that's a lot of money. All it states in there is that it will ensure operational efficiencies and assist with recently identified final upgrades. And I don't know what that means, and I don't know that our public would know what that means. Final efficiencies, I kind of like to see deliverables when I see contracts. So can you tell me what those deliverables, additional deliverables would be, or what these exactly these efficiencies are? Because it's not in the staff report.
Yeah, Honorable Mayor and Councilmember Luevanos. Lucy, sorry. We're extending the contract with this consultant who's helped us develop the Energov, which is our Energov system, which is our permitting module, part of our ERP. So they'll be helping us to improve the system as we continue to upgrade and change processes. So that's where the efficiencies are. It's tradition that we usually attach the amendment to the contract, which is what you see in the staff report. We're happy to provide the original contract if you'd want to see that. But again, it's a professional consultant service.
I just want to know what we're getting for the $100,000, because the amendment just says that it's extending it, but I don't know what we're getting for $100,000. That's what I would like to know.
Well, it's a not to exceed of an additional 100, so we're not guaranteed to spend 100,000. But again, that's the consultants helping us through all of the systems and process build out, cleanup. We've gone live with it, so they got us to this point, which has been tremendous. And now they're going to continue to help us work through bugs and improvements, which some of our departments, especially environmental services, is welcoming and championing.
Okay, is there any way that could be in the, I have no problem extending a contract if that's what's needed, especially when you're working with a consultant to already, help you implement it. But again, we're working on, government system of transparency for the residents, and we're going to spend an additional $100,000. I want them to know what the deliverables are. I want to know what the deliverables are that are in addition, and not just generalities. Does that make sense?
Sure.
So can we get that in a report, or?
Sure, we can pull out the original staff report and provide any additional scope of work. And again, it's really configuration, so a lot of it's as we go along and figure out what improvements need to be made.
We can provide a copy of the agreement to the, we can email it to the city council. We're happy to do that.
Okay, so this is stuff that was not. Yes.
Based on that, is this something we can just put off until we get the report, or is that going to create a nightmare in the finance department?
The need exists to have the consultant available with us to help us continue on the process. I don't know if having the report is going to, I don't want to speak for the council, but if it's going to make any difference we're just extending an existing contract that the council had approved previously.
Okay, the reason I asked it that way, because all of a sudden it dawned on me that I read where it's retroactive to January, I believe it is.
Correct. We had to let it expire prior to coming back and getting it.
And that's why I'm asking if we let it go to the next meeting, everybody has a chance to read it, if we just add that to the retroactive part of it, would that be a problem?
If council's desire, we can put it back on the agenda with the original contract on there if you'd like.
So just to understand, right now they're working without a contract. Is that pretty accurate?
We're re-engaging them because there's still additional work to be done. So they were able to get us to the live point. So over the last few months, we've done other improvements, other streamlining efforts to improve the Energov system, help with permitting, automation of permitting for residents. And so now we want to re-engage with this consultant to help us with other things.
That makes sense. I guess the question then the mayor brings up is that this is retroactive.
Yeah, and now what I'm hearing is it's in a contract that we already approved. So it's not like a new contract.
But it says it's amending the term through December 31st, 2024. I'm just asking for what the additional deliverables are that we're getting for this $100,000. That's all I want to know.
May I make a comment? Having gone through numerous acquisitions and enterprise changes and computer systems, you have to have a consultant to walk you through to finish it up correctly. So we're at a certain point now, and we need to keep improving it. We need to get the bugs out, is basically what we need to do to finalize it so that we don't need a consultant in the future. So all we're doing is extending our consultant time. So it's the same agreement we had before. It's strictly just we need some more time with our consultant. So I'm comfortable with the way it's written now.
And I'll withdraw my suggestion of waiting, and if you can just provide us with a report down the road, that'd be fine.
Absolutely.
I'm not comfortable with that. I'm a consultant. When, I'm going to pay extra, they're going to extend a contract, I got to say what I'm paying them for. I have to provide deliverables. If it's additional support, then it's additional support. I say, oh, you want this extra? Then that's going to cost you extra. I don't mind paying extra if I know what I'm getting. And I'm here speaking on behalf of the taxpayers. I just want to know what we're getting extra.
I don't think it's extra. We're continuing the existing service that we have to allow it to.
But we're paying $100,000 more.
That's correct. Because although the original intent of the software launch was much earlier than it happened. So everything got delayed. The whole timeline moved. And that's why the time of the original contract expired. We need to extend the time. And at the same time, we're extending the services in order to procure that from this contractor.
It's just that when we have other contracts where they ask for additional money, they're like, we have other things. But in the past, when we've had other contracts, they say, well, there was a problem with the cement, or there was a problem with the environment, and this is why it costs more. And I don't see that in here except for additional efficiency. So I just want to know what we're getting for additional $100,000. If it's, to go past the online, then, put that in there so that I know and the taxpayers know what we're paying for.
So, Mr. Tony, isn't it that we're just getting more time? The consultant's just assisting us with more time. So it's almost like hourly or a weekly.
Yes, in summary, and again, there's not a need for a new contract because it's the exact same service with the same vendor that we were using before, but we're re-engaging to do those improvements.
But the term is extended.
Can I liken this to if my gardener had a contract with me and it ended, and I says, well, I want to continue on, I've got to pay him. Okay, so I would still ask that you provide the council with a report down the road, and then
and if
we're ready to call for a motion.
Yeah, and just to answer Councilmember Levinos's desire for deliverables, in the statement, Park has provided invaluable assistance with permit configuration, designing, coding workflows, reports, citizen self-service screens. The city requires assistance to implement the goals. In my mind, those are the deliverables that are being asked to.
I guess I'm asking, were they not able to complete what was in the original contract, and that's when they need more money? Or, did they underbid this contract? That's what I'd like to know.
No, they completed what we had initially engaged them for. They helped us get to the go-live status and all those things that Councilmember Lister just read off. But as we've continued, we've realized there's other improvements we can make to the system to make it better for the public. And this is the best expert that we have available to us, and they'll be the best one to provide that service to help us to continue and clean up the systems. There's always bugs when you go live with something, and a lot of things are unintended. And so we're discovering those and improving those as we go.
So you have experience with this expert, so you know exactly what you're getting.
Right.
Thank you. Anybody want to make a motion?
I move to approve consent item number 1.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. Call for the vote.
I'm voting no because I'd like to see the deliverables that we're getting for our additional $100,000 of taxpayer money.
Councilmember Levinos? The motion passes with Councilmember Levinos voting no.
I don't believe item 2 was pulled, correct?
No.
So I move to approve consent item number 2.
Okay, motion and second for item 2.
The motion passes unanimously.
Okay, we'll go right down the line. 3 questions on 3. Councilor Levinos.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I see this is a $1 million increase, so I have to pull it because we have to talk about it.
Sure.
I know that gas prices have increased, and that's why, and then we got another amendment because they've increased so much for another $186,000. So I understand the need to increase what we're paying for gas. However, I've been asking for 3.5 years since I've been here for, when are we going to transition to EV or CNG so that we're not so reliant on the gas, because it's just killing our budget here. $1 million is a lot.
It is, and this contract is how we try to save as much money as we can by doing this. But again, with a unprecedented rise in gas prices, it just we're looking at it. It's going to exceed. It's going to exceed if we don't increase it. In terms of hybrid vehicles, I know we have moved to some of those for some vehicles, but not for all of them. So like detective cars and things like that, we have used hybrid. And it's just a matter of getting to the point where we're going to be able to use that for the regular patrol vehicles. And then there's all the upfitting and all the other equipment that goes with them as well. So I know that's in process, but it's not something we've accomplished as of yet.
We have actually, Dave, Chief, we have an RFP out right now for a consultant to do a fleet analysis for the city that will review all of our vehicles, all of our fleet vehicles, and what is the best match for the city as opposed to the task at hand. It may not be that police black and white units go to electric vehicles, but we're certainly looking at them for code enforcement, building and safety, some of our public works staff. So we are looking at all fuel alternatives through this fleet analysis. Joe, I know it's on the street now, isn't it? Okay, so the RFP will be issued in the next couple of weeks, and then we'll have a full analysis of all of the city's vehicles.
And here's my other question, and I don't know if you can answer it or not,
Okay.
Chief. Gas companies are very quick to raise prices, and they come down very slowly, which is ironic to me because it takes so much time to refine the oil into gas.
Right.
So does this increase take into account that, gas prices are coming back down? Or is it based on what the most expensive gas price is?
I don't know if I don't have the answer to that. I would assume that it would take into consideration the chance that the gas prices can fluctuate, and then we would build that amount into it in terms of not to exceed.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't have the solid answer for you on that and how that works. I mean, that's anybody's guess. Other than just I know that the gas prices have been extraordinarily high. So
I just don't know how the negotiation goes, through the county. If their gas prices come down, do ours come down too, or?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. So, yeah.
But because we buy in bulk and because we buy through the county, there are certain taxes that are also not paid. You can indicate on page 2 of the staff report in the second paragraph, we're only, back in March 15th, we were only paying $4.55 a gallon. So we're paying significantly less than the public is paying, but we're still being hit on having to pay extra costs for gasoline due to just the rising cost. So staff is projecting out current costs going forward, but we only buy as much as we need. We're not buying, our tanks only hold so much, so we're not buying excess gasoline.
Yeah, you pay the price for what's in the fuel truck when they put it in the fuel truck.
That's correct.
You don't get a drop in pay just because the oil goes down while you have a full tank of fuel. It comes down when you go to fill it later.
Well, I'm assuming that the price is what, the maximum price is, and that's what their additional funding is for.
I would guess that it's something like that. I mean, like I said, the cooperative contract of purchasing gas to me is, from where my knowledge base is with this, is just trying to save as much as we possibly can by doing it from that route. What happens on the other side of the supply chain, I'm not as familiar with. So,
Correct me if I'm wrong. Do we have a purchasing department? And isn't that their?
We do.
Yeah, and that's kind of what they do is the purchasing.
Plus, I'm a historian. You don't want me messing with math. I'm just telling you right now, it's not going to be good. Didn't do so well on my GRE when it came to the math. So,
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, need a motion for 3?
Well, I don't believe 4 was pulled. So I would like to motion that we approve 3 and 4 with the amendment of the date on consent item 4.
Second.
Agreed, thank you, council member. Motion and second, call for the vote. That'll be on 3 and 4.
The motion passes unanimously.
Okay, now questions on 5.
I'm not sure who to, I guess this is for you, Mr. Gabler? Yes? I have no problem with approving the authorization to initiate recruitment for the position. What I would like to see, and I've asked before, is if we can have, as employees leave, whatever level they're at, administrative or, at the entry level, if we can do an exit survey so that we know like why they're leaving and see if we can be competitive in keeping our employees. That's my only request.
We do exit interviews on all, we offer exit interviews on all employees that are leaving. Some take advantage of it and some don't.
Or exit survey, whatever, even an anonymous one so that we know.
Every position.
Okay.
Councilmember, sorry.
Is that shared with us, or can we? No?
It's a personnel issue. I don't believe we can share it.
It is not.
Mayor, if I might, thank you. I was actually going to pull this item simply to tell Mr. Tony that very sorry to hear he submitted his letter of resignation, and that you will be sorely missed. And the city of Malibu is really fortunate. And so, anyway, I wanted to commend him and thank you for all that you've been doing for us. And we really will miss you. So, and you can change your mind. Just that's all I'm saying. So.
I would like to reiterate what Mayor Pro Tem Litzter said. I was going to vote no on it just so you couldn't go, but they told me that wouldn't work.
Not sure if that's going to help.
But congratulations.
I move to approve consent item 5, Mayor.
Second.
Motion and second for 5. Call for the vote.
The motion passes unanimously.
I'll give you my congratulations later, pal.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next on the agenda is item 8A, discussion regarding the timing of public statements on the City Council agenda, and City Manager Gabler will be presenting this item.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. At the February 28th council meeting, the City Council requested a review of public statements and the timing of which happening at City Council meetings. We have provided 3 options for the City Council to consider based upon some of the when public statements would occur. At the end of the day, what it comes down to is whether public statements happens before public hearings or after public hearings. I will defer the discussion to the City Council, and we are available to answer any questions.
Okay, I'm going to take the liberty of going first. When previously, before we changed it to towards the end of the meeting, we started off and we had many, I would say, developer types and consultants that were here being paid by the people that were paying them and also here. And we had a habit of speaking for long periods of time, and we continue that habit today. We just ramble on. That's my opinion. So it was moved to the rear, so we didn't have consultants on payroll and being charged to listen to us talk about the items that we talked about, such as, where we went and the committee meetings is what we're supposed to be talking about, but of course it got carried much further than that. So it was determined that this is unfair to the consultants that are coming in being paid, and that's why it was moved. And so take that into consideration, and I think that's what we're all attempting to do when we look at this process. But it's something that really affects the meetings, and it affects the folks that are here, and it affects the people that are on payroll being here. So please remember that when we look at this. That's my comments for now. Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Litzner.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to, basically in the staff report, we were given 3 options of suggestions. We have combine it all together into one public comment. We have it before, and we have it after, to be simplistic. But I wanted to suggest a possible 4th suggestion, which I think speaks to Mr. Lapper's concerns and maybe makes it equitable for all. Occasionally there are times when we have a lot of public speakers. Let's say I say something really stupid in some public forum, and 100 people need to come tell me how stupid I've been. And when that happens, it can go very long. And if there are public hearings, it can be very anyway. And so because of that. But I understand Mr. Lapper's point that if there's 4 or 5 people who would really like to say something, it's hard for them to have to wait 3 or 4 hours. My suggestion is that we actually go with choice number 2, which would place that before public speaking or public comments, or excuse me, public hearings, I'm sorry. However, limit that. In other words, say we'll allow 30 minutes for public comments, or in other words, the first 10 speakers. If it's one of those nights where we have 30, 40, 50 people who want to speak about whatever, and there are public hearings, we will politely continue that item after the public hearings. So in essence, does that make sense, Mayor?
Yeah, and I want to point out, I think I failed to say, we moved the council comments to expedite things. And the one thing I do agree with is we want to give the opportunity for the speaker to speak right at the time of the public hearing, not have them talk 3 hours before and then expect us to remember everything they said when it really wasn't totally relevant at that time, and now it's becoming relevant.
Right. And I think Mr. Judge's reason for separating in the first place was very wise, that we would have people, in other words, having 2 public comments. The first one is about appointments, et cetera, and Mr. Judge had brought that to our attention, that often there were young people waiting a very long time to get a certificate if we had public hearings. So anyway, so that's why we separated them at the time. But anyway, it was my thought that if we did it in this manner, then maybe it's the best of all worlds. But we would have to, if we did so, it would be right before public hearings, but we would limit it to a certain, I thought 30 minutes. It could be whatever you think. But that's my suggestion.
Okay.
Can I ask a question, Mayor?
Well, I'm in the queue too. I don't know.
Yeah, you can ask a question, but I was going to call you out.
Yeah, no, I just want to make sure.
Councilmember Luevanos.
So here's my question before I make a comment, because I felt like Councilman Judge was going to make a motion, and I want to be able to ask a question. I have a question of the attorney. For Brown Act purposes, because this has been brought up before by the city manager, is there a requirement when we have public hearings for them to be at that designated time? Because I know for the county, like they have an agenda and they'll have the time, when it's going to be, so that more or less, and I've seen other government entities do that. Well, let's say, okay, this is the time that we're going to do this is the time we're going to do that, So for public hearings, if we say the public hearing is at 8:10 p.m. and we're still, having comments or, other stuff, like, are we in violation of the Brown Act if we don't actually start that public hearing at 8:10 p.m.? That's my question, before we consider any of the rest of this.
Well, I've never seen the 3 jurisdictions that I've worked at where they designate a specific time. I think this council will have discretion and latitude to proceed as long as the agenda has been properly posted, due process considerations are taking place. I don't think I see the concerns that you're addressing, but that's assuming first that we have designated at a specific time, and we haven't done that yet.
Okay, because I've in previous meetings when we've had public hearings, we said we're going to move the agenda because we have this public hearing that's at this time. That's why I'm bringing it up.
It was the one time because of the districting required it. That was the exception, I think.
Okay, so
the districting had to be at a certain time, certain.
So that's why I'm asking, because that has happened before, and so, before we have this discussion, I just want to make sure. So that's only a requirement for districting?
And I want to thank Councilmember Lister for reminding me of that specific instance. That's correct.
It was a requirement of state law on the redistricting process to have public hearings at a time certain. That's the only time certain public hearings that I'm aware of, well, that the cities had to deal with in the past. And that's only because it was written into state law.
I think we also need to remember that the script for any public hearing includes a spot for the public to speak. So I personally have no problem with when we tell them this is going to be item, 7B. They should know. And if not, we need to educate that that's when you speak on a particular public hearing item is when the agenda item comes up, because it's already built right in to the script. So,
Can I ask another question, Mayor?
yes.
My other question is, regardless of what option is chosen tonight, option 1, 2, or 3, I just want to make sure that there's no limit to people who want to speak. Like if someone wants to speak, on item 2A, and then there's a public hearing, and then, that people are not limited in their ability of free speech and to engage in the government, because, I've heard comments from this dais of, you already spoke, so you don't get to speak again, and I don't want anyone to be limited. That if someone wants to speak on 5 items on the agenda, and we have 4 public hearings and public statements, that they're allowed to speak at every opportunity that they're allowed to speak.
I need to point out, since I've been mayor, that does not occur. Now, when we have, say, 90 people, we do cut down the time. Or we
I'm talking about the number of times. No, I understand that, because that has happened.
My policy, personal policy is, if someone takes the time to come down here and wants to speak to us, they get to speak. I don't care if it's tomorrow morning.
As many times as they want.
I'm sorry?
On different items, so they can speak on each of the different items on the agenda. That's what I want to clarify. That's what I want to go in the record. I want to make sure that if people come and they want to speak on 4 different issues, that they're allowed to do that.
But they just need to put in their card that that's the issue they want to speak on.
Well, I think we need to be careful. We're talking about the same thing.
Yeah, I'm going to make sure that, so the council meeting protocols that the council has adopted allows anyone to speak under public statements for 3 minutes and talk about anything they want. They can talk about all the items on the agenda. They can talk one item on the agenda. They can talk about something that's not on the agenda. If they want to come back and fill out a card for each public hearing, they certainly can do that. So they always have the ability to talk at every public hearing, and they can talk at during public statements for 3 minutes.
But when they fill out the cards for those other hearings, they have to speak about that hearing that they're talking about.
That's correct.
They just can't start with public statements and go 4 items in with the same conversation.
That's correct.
Right.
Okay.
And the other difficulty we have seen, not a lot, but it does happen, is you have a full house, let's say, and you have, let's say, 5 speakers on each public hearing item. Everybody else goes, hey, I want to talk on that. We need to have a time where put the cards in however long before everything starts, but for everybody to jump in because it's cool, it really adds a...
Well, what other cities have done, Mayor, if I may, other cities have said, once that agenda item starts, you have to have your cards in by the time that agenda item starts.
so
And
we
if you don't
should-
have your cards in by then you can't speak on that agenda item.
And that'd be fine.
And that is part of our council meeting protocol on public statements, is once public statement starts, we don't distribute any more cards, and we don't take any more cards in.
But that doesn't, like, if you still had a public hearing after the public statements, you could still submit a card
You can still-
before that public hearing and speak to that public hearing.
That's correct. Public hearings is treated differently, where if someone halfway through during public comments on a public hearing, they can still submit cards as long as public statements is still going on. As long as the public hearing is opened, public statements portion of the hearing is opened, they can submit a card to speak. Once the mayor closes the public hearing, then public comments for that public hearing is over.
Okay, and I think that's kind of like the primer. It is very overwhelming. I've been bringing kids to city council meetings for a long time, and I think it is overwhelming. So whatever we decide tonight, we need to be clear in communicating that to our residents. And I'm sorry, Councilmember Kavanaugh, I did not mean to cut you off.
That's right, thank you. I think what the city manager was explaining is that's how it's standardly handled at every city when it comes to public hearings. We have to follow a certain procedure. I also was thinking we needed a little bit of alternative on the agenda items, or excuse me, the options that the staff gave. Thank you for the staff for doing that. But there's another city, and I don't remember which one it is, but they do that. They have public statements up front earlier, and then they have a time frame. It could be 30 minutes, 40 minutes. And then at the end of that time, you go on to the next agenda item. And then towards maybe where we would have it at 5, so after all the public hearings, you would have an additional agenda item for any speakers that have not spoken yet. I kind of like that idea because it creates the fact that we can get if there are younger people here, we can get their certificates done, we can get them out on time. You know, we had a lot of people here tonight. It was easier to get them out and going because we had the public speakers later. If we only have 3 to 5 public speakers, you know, that's fine. Right, we make up time. But if we have 30, then we take 10 up front and then the rest. And everyone still gets a chance to speak. You can kind of gauge, looking at the agenda, kind of gauge how long, what time frame you're going to be here. So I like Mayor Pro Tem Litzter's idea.
I just want to clarify that opportunity for public statement can take place before the public hearing, and then a subsequent opportunity for public statement should take place immediately after the public hearing,
Okay.
and it should take place before consent, old business, new business.
So almost like what we do now, we're just going to change 2 to open public statements and 5 to leftover public statements. And then any items in 4, if we still use that for our public hearings, that's addressed there. Does that work, Councilmember or Mayor Pro Tem? City Manager's looking at me.
It's actually, well, close. Yes. We're still keeping, I'm sorry, let me look at the notes because.
I think I know where you're going.
Yeah,
So 2 would have to stay where it is.
Right.
Because you have to allow
Right.
for the opportunity for people to speak on those items that are covered before 2. So 2 would happen. You could go to a public statement before public hearings that is X amount of time. Once you reach that X amount of time, you stop public statements, you go on to public hearings, and then after public hearings, you pick up public statements again.
If there's any left.
Right.
That's
So really it is option 2 as stated in our report with a time delineation or a time
Right.
constraint placed on item 4.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I
Item
think
3.
And
City
I think
Manager
it's
knows what we
just-
want.
Just want to clarify that you would continue
On 4.
that first public statement opportunity.
Right.
I think it's important.
It's not anything new. It's simply a
Not a new-
continuation of
Continuous.
number 4.
If there are speakers.
And so I believe you would still want to keep the protocol that's in place, that once public statement starts, you no longer accept any cards. So you still have to be here to turn in a card. That's how the current protocols work.
Then I think we should stay with the same, so that we're consistent with that.
I don't think there's any reason to bring it up, but the cards were moved up here for a reason, and we want to continue that. And that's, people are coming in, taking a handful of cards and taking them out, and that's not the proper way to do it. So 1 person, 1 card.
So if the council is desirous of that format, then the question is how long would the first public statements?
30 minutes, that's 10 speakers.
That was my thought.
That would be, I think that's reasonable. Most of the time, we're not going to have 10 speakers unless there's a high priority item on the agenda. Or I say something stupid.
No, that was my, I was the one saying something stupid.
And the question that I have is, does staff have enough information here to move forward with it? Or is this, let them write it and then we look at it?
No, we can.
You're good with that?
Yeah, I think we know what you want, and if you want it for 30 minutes, then we can create that for the next agenda. I will warn you that the next agenda has 3 public hearings on it. It won't be a short night.
Which is why you're going to be happy it's before the public hearing.
So get your card in early. So yes, I mean, we can, if that's the council's desire, we can move forward on that.
Well, I'd like to try that. I think, yeah, we try and see how it works, and I think it will work and will be a good move.
Hey, and it's not like we couldn't change it.
That's what I mean. If we decide it doesn't work or we need to adjust it a little bit, we always have that opportunity.
And I think as the city manager is indicating, there are both protocols chair has discretion. There's probably some other issues that'll come up you want to clarify as to how you want to handle that.
I think in the past where we've had questions, what we do is take a vote of the council at the time. In other words, if for some reason a speaker needs to speak and we need to hear him, and maybe the protocol says no, we just, hey, does anybody care if we extend so-and-so's time or something like that?
Well, as an example, this evening, you had 11 speakers that went for 33 minutes. So you could or actually
Have the
38
discretion.
minutes. So you could add the last one and you'd be done. Right. So that's
the
it's your
mayor's discretion.
Mayor's
Yeah.
discretion.
Yeah, okay.
Mayor, if I may make a comment.
Okay.
You know, this is just very confusing. I don't want to limit people who want to come and speak. I'm already like looking at logistics. I'm a teacher, so I'm already looking at the logistics of this. So if we only do, you know, the first 10 speakers for 30 minutes and the first part of the public, you know, comments, then how will people know if they're in those first 10? Like, what if 3 of those people decide to go home and then, you know, the other one? So how will people know whether or not they need to stay? You know, what if they're number 12 or 13 on that list of speakers and like 3 other people left, and so now you're in that first half? I mean, I don't know. There's just a lot of, you know, ifs about being in the audience, and I've been to many a city council member since before I was elected, with, you know, with my Girl Scouts, with my Boy Scouts, and you know, there's a lot of ifs in terms of, it just seems more confusing to split up public comments, to say, you know, I'm okay with having the 2 and the 5, but to split up the 5 sections, is that what you're talking about, Councilwoman Lister? Yes?
Yes, basically, this is a deference to those who don't want to sit through all the public hearings. And because right now, our public comments are after public hearings. So this would allow for 30 minutes of public statements about whatever they want to speak with on the agenda, and then it would put a time limit so that it would then allow to go to public hearings, of course. People comment on their public hearings, and then it would return to public statements after those 30 minutes. I think with your concern, I think we have, our city clerk would be reading the names off. It would be clear who becomes those 10 speakers. It would be very clear. She would say, if I haven't read your name, you are invited to please stay with us. We will return to this item.
Yeah,
What
yes.
about-
She could say you will be speaking in item number.
If you just
Yeah.
number the first 10 cards or 11 cards, there's the end of it right there.
Yeah,
And
that's true too.
so,
Well,
anyway,
okay, if we do that, and I have to tell you, as a resident here, you know, I was here for a hearing for SB 54, and I was literally the first one here at 4:30 with my son. And we were the first 2 to fill out the blue cards. And unless there's a timestamp, how do you know who the first 10 are? Because I wasn't the first one to speak, nor was my son. And we waited here for hours. And so what I don't want to happen is that there's a preference of which 10 are going to get to speak. I don't want that to happen. So if there's a timestamp machine so that we make sure that the first 10.
Lucy, will you number those cards 1 through 10?
Yeah.
more faith in our people. We're not going to hold, we're not going to say it's Joe Smith and we're going to put him in behind just because we don't like him.
Well, but that has happened, Mayor. I want the recognition that has happened
A lot
here.
of things have happened. This council does not behave that way. This staff does not behave that way. Don't make a constant out of something that rarely, if ever, happened since I've
But
been
it has happened multiple times here. Well, council members here on the dais were here on the dais when that happened. 3 of you were on the dais when SB 54 happened. And those cards were not given in the order that people spoke.
That's your opinion? I don't know.
No, that's
why
not my
you-
opinion. That's a
why
fact.
Didn't you, why
Go
didn't
back
you
and look
file
at the
a complaint?
recordings. That's a
File
fact. I want
let
this
me
to be
speak.
fair.
Let me speak.
Why don't you let me finish speaking, Mayor?
Okay, go ahead, finish. Rattle on.
Thank you. I'm not rattling on. I don't want to rush the process. We're here as elected officials to serve the public. You seem to be in quite a rush whenever there are questions. You seem to be in quite a rush whenever we're asking for accountability and transparency. And I would like to know why. Because we are here to ask the questions. We are here to listen to the public. I'm not in a rush. And I have to get up early to go to work the next day. And I'm still not in a rush because I know that it's going to be a late night. I know this is what I was elected to do. I know that I have to have the patience here to listen to everybody for as long as it takes. So I'm not in a rush to get through our local government processes because I think everyone should have the right to participate. I'm not in a rush. You seem to be in a rush.
Well, you seem to be incorrect. And the reason I say that, what I was protesting to you is you were saying that there was some kind of nefarious behavior going on here, and I'm telling you there isn't. I'm telling you that this staff, this council is a very good council, and we don't do that to people. And if you have a feeling that that's been done, you should have filed a complaint with the DA's office.
You've given preference to other people
At this point, I
before.
would recommend that we continue on with the agenda item 8A, which is a discussion regarding the timing of public statements on city council agenda.
And
May
yes,
I-
I
may I
will
make a
file it.
motion?
Since you want me to file, I will file a complaint, Mayor, because I'm tired of your harassment. And I don't deserve to be treated this way.
May I make a motion, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. I'd like to move that we adjust the agenda item as discussed earlier by having public comments for 30 minutes. Anything, 10 people? I'm sorry, we said 10 people, which will be about 30 minutes. So the first 10 people will have public comment at what, item number 2?
Right, to maybe make a,
It has to be 3 or, it has to
so
be
it's-
separate, right?
We're going to select,
I think we may have to renumber the agenda a little
Okay.
bit. So first public statements will be,
First public statements
30
will be
minutes
10
or 10
speaker or 30 minutes, whichever comes first. Anything over that, we will move the remainder of the speakers till after the public hearings to be continued.
Yes.
Second.
Okay, the motion and second. Call for the vote.
I'm voting no against this because I don't believe in limiting free speech of our residents. I'm not in a hurry. I'm here to listen.
The motion passes with Councilmember Luevanos voting no.
and I would just like to, Councilmember Lowe, want to make it very clear that what we just voted on is to actually listen to people and listen to them earlier in the evening so that they are not so inconvenienced. And that was the whole purpose of this.
But
I
you're
just want to
limiting
make
it to
very
30
clear.
minutes.
No, we're continuing. There's no limiting. We're making it more convenient. Anyway, okay, I'm done.
He's got the most power up.
He does.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next on the agenda is item 9A, City Council Member Reports.
Okay, we'll start with Councilmember Kavanaugh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On Wednesday, March 23rd, I had the opportunity to take a tour of Waste Management Facility, our landfill up there. I had been there 17 years ago, and it was really an eye-opener. I enjoyed the tour completely. They explained how they have their recyclables, how they're compacting. It was very informative, and the gentleman, Mark Brady, I think is Grady. Mark Grady, who's in charge, is very, very, very smart and very intellectual and knows so much. And he was just really informative, and he talks to you like you can understand him. So he's an engineer.
He was,
environmentalist, but he talks
ecologist,
to you so
yeah.
that you understand and can put it into your own words and your own thoughts. So he did a great job. Waste Management does a great thing up there. There were two things that were very fun. We got to see the hawk fly. So when we were there, they have Abby and Mac, and what they do is they utilize a hawk to keep the seagulls away from where they're doing the trash. So they have put a water basin when you first enter the landfill that the seagulls can hang out in. But they have a hawk, and the hawk will just fly out, and then you see all the seagulls go, whoosh, and then they're gone. It was just and nobody's getting hurt, but it was very awesome to watch that. So we got to see Abby fly, so that was pretty cool. And I took videos, and my little grandson now likes all the little itty bitty trucks because we were way, way high up, so the trucks look like they're miniature toys. So he likes to watch the videos. But they will do tours up there. So if anyone is interested, go ahead and contact Lisa Hemingway up there, or Mark Grady, or Justin Hansinger. They'll be happy to take you around or to explain things. It's very informative. Friday, March 25th, I had the opportunity to go to the Moore Park College Performing Arts, and they did Kinky Boots. Oh my gosh, it was hysterical. They did a great job. The lead performer had just gotten back from auditioning on Broadway. So he was excellent at the position, and it was nice to support our local community college. On Tuesday, March 29th, myself and a council member judge were able to be here for the swearing-in ceremony of our 3 new officers. We had 2 males and 1 female join the police force. I think they're going to do great things, and we're looking forward to having them as part of our team. On Thursday, March 31st, that was Paul Harris night for my Rotary Club. And let's see, Wednesday, April 6th, I, along with Councilmember Judge and Mayor Pro Tem Litzter and our mayor, attended the State of the City. I really want to compliment, I believe, Deputy Assistant Manager, City Manager Samantha Argabright was in charge of that event. It was so nice. It was done differently this year, and Rocky Rhodes already spoke about it, but we had a meet and greet and a mingling and hors d'oeuvres by Mays Catering. Give me a perk. And it was so nice for people to be able to just mingle and mix and move around. You weren't stuck at a table. So, you were able to talk to a lot of different people. Then we went upstairs and we utilized our own Simi Valley Cultural Arts Center for the presentation. It was wonderful. The mayor did an okay job. No, I did want to compliment the mayor. The mayor did a great job.
Next.
The mayor did a great job, and we included the Park District as well as the school district. So it was very informative. People got to hear a little bit about everything. And with a new superintendent of schools coming in, that was a good opportunity for a lot of people to become acquainted with him. So it was very informative. I heard nothing but good things about that. So, and the last thing, on Saturday, April 9th, I had the opportunity to represent us at the Junior Olympics at Royal High School. They hadn't had it in 2 years, so the kids were so excited to be out there. The parents didn't listen. They were sitting in the wrong place, but overall, it was a great event. The kids were excited. The thing I liked best is they did an opening run, and there were a group of kids, and I don't know how they were selected, but they were like the opening run before it started. There was one young person that was left quite far in the distance on running. And I was like, my heart was just going out, oh my gosh. Well, one of the school board trustees and 2 of the administrators crossed the field, ran over, and ran the rest of the way with that student. It was just a fantastic sight to see. It made everyone feel good. Everyone was celebrating, and just good to see our students out there having a great time and enjoying each other again after the long 2 years that we've had. So that's the end of my report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Judge.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On Wednesday, March 23rd, I attended the Every 15 Minutes program at Simi Valley High School. And I just wanted to do a quick acknowledgement that the coordinator is in our midst tonight. Mike Court did a great job in putting that together for the high school. On Thursday, March 24th, I didn't attend the program of Every 15 Minutes, which is normally the next day is like a school assembly, because I had other things I had to go to. But on that day, I did have, with Councilmember Luevanos, I just want to say congratulations to Marissa Latham-French, who we picked to be on the Community Project Grant Review Committee that day. On Friday, March 25th, I had a telephonic Zoom interview with Jeff Sokovia from Ventura County Public Health regarding tobacco-free communities. On Saturday, March 26th, I attended the BPO Elks 2492 installation dinner here in Simi Valley. Congratulated all the new officers on their appointments. On Sunday, March 27th, I had an amazing invitation to attend the Revelation Church at on Easy Street over there. It was an amazing experience. I want to give say thanks to the prophet Livy Elias and his wife Pastor Lovey Elias. Just a coincidence. Pastor Lovey Elias is the newest member of the Simi Valley Police Foundation Board, so that's very, very cool. On Tuesday, March 29th, I attend the swearing-in ceremony for our 3 new officers. Congratulations to them, and I hope they do great work. Also on that day, I met with a citizen regarding RV parking. Thursday, March 31st, I met with a citizen regarding RV parking. On Friday, April 1st, I attended the Ventura County Transportation Committee. There was nothing prevalent in there for Simi Valley that was going on. I didn't get a Caltrans report, so I'm going to find out what happened to that, but I think it didn't change in Simi Valley for anything we have going right now. So I'm pretty sure that's going to stay the same. On Tuesday, April 5th, I met with a citizen about RV parking. On Wednesday, April 6th, I attended the State of the City also. Guys, I think we did a great job. City was well represented. I loved having the Park District there, the school board. Hearing all the stuff about Simi Valley was a great event. Thursday, April 7th, I attended the Southern California Association of Governments Transportation Committee and then the Regional Council Committee. Nothing really specific in there that would have anything to do with Simi Valley. On transportation, there was a couple of things coming up. I'll have more information later on those. And that is my report. Oh, today I also attended the Council on Aging along with Mayor Pro Tem Lister.
Okay. Thank you. Next, Councilmember Luevanos.
On Thursday, March 24th, Councilmember Judge and I interviewed for the Community Project Grant Review Committee, and those of you that did not get selected, we encourage you to continue to seek out volunteer opportunities like Neighborhood Council. So please continue to apply, and thank you for everyone who came out for the interviews. On Wednesday, March 30th, I attended a press conference with Senator Stern about shutting down the Aliso Canyon gas leak. He introduced a bill to permanently shut down the Aliso Canyon gas facility, which is adjacent to us and which impacts many of our residents because many Simi Valley residents work in that area in the Porter Ranch, Chatsworth, Zelza Avenue area. So that definitely impacts a lot of our residents who work in that area. I know there's a lot of teachers and nurses and engineers and who work in that area. So we had quite a few Simi Valley residents that were there as well. So hoping this legislation goes through to hold them accountable. A lot of people that have died of cancer, a lot of people that have a lot of health issues. They're trying to sell their homes and move out, but are unable to do so right now. On Thursday, March 31st, there was a big Cesar Chavez celebration. I know my daughter talked about stuff they talked about in the class about Cesar Chavez. It was his birthday, so many school districts celebrate Cesar Chavez's birthday, which is March 31st, and the impact that he still has on our community in terms of all of the farm workers, some of which live here in Simi Valley as well. On Thursday, April 7th, I attended the Clean Power Alliance board meeting, and we talked about a lot of stuff, some of it very complicated. I'm going to try to simplify it as much as I can. We approved bill positions, our legislative platform, which was to oppose SB 1287 unless they amend it, to support AB 2238, and then we reviewed the PCIA voluntary allocation. And what that is that the CPUC, the California Public Utilities Commission, I want to make sure I don't just throw acronyms out there, in 2021 ordered the IOUs to offer voluntary allocations of PCIA eligible renewable resources, and then we are offered the opportunity to sell those unallocated resources through an annual market offer process. And so we looked at what the balance is, and our opportunity to do that is that for open enrollment is from May 2nd through May 13th. So that's coming up very quickly, and our opportunity is to receive allocations from the IOU portfolios based on the recent annual load share. SoCal Edison remains the counterparty of the resource contracts, but basically we buy bundles of renewable energy, and we can decide what the RA value is or the energy hedge, and we can resell the elected voluntary allocation renewable energy. So what it is that we're producing through wind, through solar, through hydrothermal, if we buy that in bundles, right, that energy, and we have any that's left over, then we can resell that. So that's basically what it is. We also authorized the CEO to execute voluntary allocation agreement. We voted for 50%. This is for long-term renewable energy portfolio, so looking at 10 years or longer, what we're going to do with that. And then we also looked at the update of customer programs. Just so you know, you can still opt into 100% renewable energy. If you're low income, you will still pay the lower tiered price, so you still get a 30% discount. So if you want to, in celebration of Earth Day, which we had a proclamation for, if you want to celebrate Earth Day and you say, I want to go buy into renewable energy, but I can't afford it, there is an option for you through Clean Power Alliance if you are a member of Clean Power Alliance, which is our default here in the city. So you want to do something for Earth Day, you can do that and say, I opt in to 100% renewable, and if you're low income, you're still going to pay the lowest tier rate. So you still have that 30% discount. You will not pay more money, but you will be helping the environment. So if you want to do that, you can. On Saturday, April 9th, I attended the Chatsworth Block Fest. There were actually quite a few Simi Valley residents there again, because it's adjacent to Simi Valley, so there were quite a few residents there and activities, and I know there were lots of kids there and Simi Valley teachers, teachers who live in Simi Valley who work for LA Unified like myself, because we're now on spring break. So there were a lot of Simi Valley residents there. I kept running into people who said hi to me. Sunday, April 10th, there was an online Zoom event for Dolores Huerta's birthday. If you don't know who Dolores Huerta is, there's a movie about her, but Dolores Huerta was the female counterpart to Cesar Chavez and Larry Itliang. The three of them together fought for farm workers' rights. Again, we have many farm workers who live and reside here in Simi Valley, some of which are parents of my students and my own students. So a wonderful, celebration of Cesar Chavez's birthday and Dolores Huerta's birthday. Two civil rights icons. And Dolores Huerta just turned 92, just so you know. And still alive, still fighting, still doing some amazing things in our community, including here in Ventura County. And this morning, before I came to city council meeting, I too took a tour of waste management. I promised I'd give a shout out. So if you are a Boy Scout looking for an Eagle Scout project, I see some Boy Scouts in the back, okay? Waste management has projects for you to work on, because those are the questions I always get as a Boy Scout leader and a Girl Scout leader. What can I do for my Gold Award, my Silver Award, my Bronze Award? What can I do for my Eagle Scout project? Please call Waste Management. Please contact them, or you can contact me, and I'll put you in touch with the projects that they have up there. Sebastian Campos just put up, 10 owl boxes. There's always a need for, different projects around there, trail cleanup. They're just doing amazing things out there with waste management with our community. They're going to revive their garden as well. And then I got to see the recycling facilities as well. And they have a new recycling facility, which is state of the art. I highly encourage field trips for Boy Scout troops, for Girl Scout troops, and for our high school and middle school students. And I used to take my young elementary school students on field trips to wastewater treatment facilities, to water reclamation, and to landfills, because they need to know where our trash goes. It goes somewhere. Our trash goes somewhere. It goes to a place. You need to figure out why it goes there, what happens to it, and how you can reduce waste. All of our residents need to know that. So I highly encourage you to. They have field trips available. If you're a science teacher, if you're an English teacher, any kind of teacher, you can take that field trip to waste management. It doesn't cost a dime, and I highly encourage you to take the next generation there so they know what the impact is, especially for Earth Day. They're going to have an Earth Day event out there as well for waste management, and understand the impact of our actions, of what we throw in the trash and where it goes. Thank you. That's my report, Mayor.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Blitzner.
Thank you, Mayor. This has been kind of an interesting 2 or 3 weeks for me, and I'll try to be brief. Yes, it was very moving to witness the every 15-minute program held by Simi Valley on Wednesday, March 23rd. I know that the mayor was there, so was Mike Judge. I have never attended the crash scene before. I tended to always go to the assembly the next day, and I thought, okay, I've got to at least do the crash scene. It is very powerful, and I appreciate how that is done. Thank you for all those that are involved. I did go to the next day to the assembly. My hat's off to the videographer, and I'm sorry I don't have his name. He's a Simi resident. He volunteers. It was professional. It was amazing what was put together for that event, but truly effective and truly powerful. So thank you for the PTA and our police force and the many that were involved in making that such a powerful educational tool. Also on Wednesday, March 23rd, I want to thank the mayor. He invited me to join with him in meeting Ranjini Kaushik from SciArts, Us, who has some exciting opportunities, equity arts projects, and wanted to know how she could access the Cultural Arts Center and different grants, et cetera. And so I wanted to thank the mayor for that introduction and having that conversation with her. There's some exciting things that she would like to do for our community. Also on Thursday, March 24th, I attended VCOG, Ventura County Association of Government. I'm on their admin committee, and where they basically plan the topics of discussion. And I know that Councilmember Luevnos will be pleased to know that we decided that we need to have a thorough discussion about some of the water issues, and I know that that's near and dear to your heart, and so that will be part of our upcoming discussion. Thank you, Mr. Gabler, for having time for me on that day as well to visit. On Sunday, March 27th, I had a very unusual experience where I actually played the harp at a cemetery in the middle of Los Angeles. But it was done to honor 865 women who were given a Congressional Medal of Honor, most of them posthumously, gold medal. And it was to honor, I want to say this correctly, the first and only all-black women's battalion. And it is for 6888. And like I said, the first and only all-black women's battalion. And they basically were there in World War II, and they were sent to the European theater to process the mail. And they had a, let's see, what was there? I meant to write down their wonderful mail. If you don't get the mail, all will fail. Or anyway, they had this wonderful model, I'm sorry. But basically, they processed 7 million pieces of backlogged mail. And basically, they knew that if they didn't get the mail out to those who were fighting for our rights, freedoms, that is what kept morale. That's it. It was no mail, low morale, or something like that. So anyway, that was their motto. But it was, and there are maybe 4 or 5 living women who are still of that group. But anyway, it was a wonderful event to honor these 865 women who were part of that 6888. So that was on Sunday, March 27th. And then it was spring break. And I mentioned this. Normally I wouldn't mention a vacation to you, except I had the privilege of attending a Seroptimus event several months ago. And it was a fundraiser, and I bid on a timeshare. And I think I was the only bidder. And so anyway, so I did visit California's very first timeshare in the whole state of California. It's San Diego Country Estates in Ramona, California, northeastern San Diego. And we live in a beautiful state. For all our struggles, I want you to know we do live in a beautiful state. And so it was lovely to spend time there with family. On Tuesday, April the 5th, I had the privilege of attending the Robotics Showcase held at Adventist Health Simi Valley. It was such an educational, incredible event that I want to just share what I learned about our Adventist Health Simi Valley. They have just recently received the designation of Center of Excellence in Robotic Surgery. They are the first in Ventura County to receive that designation. Basically, it's akin to earning a credential if you were a college and trying to get credentialed. So they're the very first in Ventura County. They are one of only 13 in the state of California with that designation, and they are one of 95 throughout the entire nation that has this designation. And to receive that designation, and so I'm just bragging about our local hospital because it is that incredible. To receive that designation, basically the accreditors had to review 30% of every single surgeon's cases. They couldn't hold some back. Every single surgeon, they had to look at their cases. And many hospitals have 1 or 2 robotic assisting tools, but to have this designation, we have to have 3 distinct robotic systems. Currently, they're using the Marco, which is for joint replacements, Globus Excelsius, which is for lower spine surgeries, fusion implants, and in time, they're going to even have a component that will assist with brain surgery. They also have, the third one is the Intuitive Da Vinci X1 XI, which is used for general surgery, gynecology, oncology, urology, bariatrics. For instance, it is excellent for hernia surgeries, smaller incisions, etc. And I actually got to manipulate the arms and use a foot pedal for the camera, and I could never be a surgeon. But basically what they are finding is that it's resulting in outstanding patient outcomes. This was expressed by Jennifer Swenson, the CEO. It results in less narcotics. People leave the hospital earlier. And she's been just extremely proactive, bringing the surgeons first and then building the system. What I also learned today, because I also went to Moore Park College where they were celebrating this partnership with the hospital and with Moore Park College, and they're doing, I'll get that later a little bit in the report, but I also learned there when I picked up the conversation, I spoke with one of the surgeons who I'd spoken with a week previously. And one of their head surgeons had just been in Florida lecturing about this very system to all the doctors, and basically asked, how many of you have the access to these robotics 24/7? And very few raised their hand. Simi Valley has 24/7 access to all this. So if you have an emergency at midnight, you're not going to get a different treatment than if you have it scheduled for 4 o'clock or 8 o'clock the next morning. It's because Simi Valley's hospital has trained all of their staff to help, to assist. It's not just the surgeons, it's the staff, it's the OR that needs to know how to use all of this. So anyway, I'm just thrilled, excited. Maybe we need to have them come give a demonstration sometime or talk about it. But okay, back to my, I'm excited about our hospital. This isn't Simi Valley, everyone. I think we should take great pride that we have this here in our community. Okay, back to some other things. Yes, State of the City was great. Thursday, April 7th, I attended the SCAG Energy Environment Policy Committee meeting where I was also educated. I won't tell you all the things I'm on it. This was a week of learning, time of learning for me. But I did learn that basically what will be coming out is the draft 2022 Air Quality Management Plan. What I've learned is that the EPA basically established the base standards in 2015, and we have to meet those particles or emission standards by 2037, and we are very far behind. But there's some constraints, which includes the fact that we can control certain things within Southern California, but there are certain entities that are controlled by the federal government who doesn't have the same constraints. So that's a whole nother topic about how we're going to actually meet those emission standards that we need to be at. Sunday, actually just today, I'll just quickly, let me just share just a little bit about the union of this Adventist Health Simi Valley and Moore Park Community College, because it too is very exciting what's taking place in our community. Basically, they have always partnered or have partnered for quite some time in things such as nursing, EMT training, et cetera. But where they're now adding is that they are working together on their Raider Central Basic Needs Center, which is basically helping to provide for those students who are food deficient, housing, live in their cars, et cetera. They're helping in other additional career pathways. They are actually providing a physician on site. So they're helping to staff their healthcare services on site. And then they're also helping to oversee the athletic sports medicine training program, providing athletic training assistance on site. So I just want to, again, say thank you to all that's happening in our community and the efforts of Adventist Health Simi Valley. And that concludes my report. Thank you. Not as fast as I intended to be, but thank you.
You had a lot of good information. Okay, myself. I would like to speak briefly about Ranjani. However, I know I'm probably mutilating her name. Kaushik from SciArts R Us. And she's been working with me for quite some time, and I figured it would do the Cultural Arts Center well to have you tie up with her based on your interest in the arts and you being a musician and what she's trying to bring to our community into worldwide artists being heard here. So, and it looks like it's going to be a long project if it continues on, which I think it will. But, and so thank you for coming and thank you for hooking up with her, because I think she's going to need someone here to work with her to continue the SciArts R Us program, which is a pretty exciting program. I too was interviewed by Jeff Segovia, and he's from the Public Health Ventura County, and wanting to talk about tobacco-free communities and what my feelings were and what kind of roadblocks I thought we may hit and any issues, good or bad, that we may have. So it was interesting talking to him. Tuesday, March 29th, attended the Youth Council meeting, and on March 31st, the tourism meeting. Nothing to report other than the tourism committee has lots of money to spend. So we're going to be looking for ways of spending that money. Hopefully Joe's not here, so you won't say anything about that. At the State of the City on April 6th, I want to thank Hana Yosef from the school district for his talk. He's a great speaker. I thought it was a great break from hearing me. And he gave us a lot of information about what's going on in the school district, and also Kate O'Brien from the Park District for her going through what's going on in the Park District was a good job. And of course, our police chief always does good when it comes to public speaking. So he saved a lot of the audience, the three of them saved a lot of the audience from my ongoing talk. Saturday, April 9th, just Saturday night. Well, first of all, on Saturday day, I attended the memorial service for Bill Glodfelty, who is Barbara Glodfelty's husband. And it was a celebration of life, and very, very interesting what his life, what he accomplished and what he did. And his number one accomplishment was marrying Barbara, undoubtedly. But it was a very nice presentation about Bill. That evening changed the attitude and everything. Went to the Boys and Girls Club auction and saw amazing how much money was donated to the Boys and Girls Club of Moore Park. I kind of changed it. I call it Simi Valley Moore Park. But at any rate, I think before they even did the first auction item, they had over $100,000 in donations through sponsors, all that will benefit children that absolutely need the help of the community, and they definitely received it on Saturday night. And that's my report. And I think the city attorney wants to have the floor.
Well, if I may, Mayor Pro Tem, and members of the City Council, one of the great privileges of working as a city attorney is having the opportunity to hire a new attorney when the opportunity presents itself. And so if I may, Mayor, I'd like to go ahead and make such an introduction. I'd like to please introduce Mr. Tayo Papula. Mr. Papula has been practicing law in California since 1998. He is also licensed to practice law in the state of Georgia. He was a deputy city attorney for the city of Los Angeles for 28 years, representing that city in various capacities. He started off as a city prosecutor, then represented and defended the city in civil matters, including tort actions, police misconduct, civil rights, and land use matters in state and federal district courts. He also advised various city departments and agencies, including the City Council, Planning Commission, Planning Department, Building and Safety, and the Police Department. Mr. Papula holds a Bachelor of Science in Chemical Engineering, an MBA, and he also has a Juris Doctorate, of course. He's also admitted to practice in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, as well as the United States Supreme Court, where he successfully filed a brief in opposition to a petition for certiorari. And so with that, I'd like to welcome Mr. Papula to the City of Simi Valley family and let him know that I look forward to working with you for the foreseeable future.
Okay.
Thank you very much, City Attorney David Caceres. It's a pleasure serving the city of Simi Valley, and I look forward to working with each one and every one of you in the near future. Thank you so much.
Mr. Papula, I go to coffee at the same place every morning where we cure all of the world's problems. Okay. And a friend of yours came up, grabbed me on the shoulder, and said, "I better be nice to you." And so Vivian says hello.
I did forget to add that Mr. Papula and his wife and his older son, they've been residents of the city of Simi Valley for 30 years.
Wow.
That is true, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Papula.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, thank you. Yes, we'll move on along to 9B, and we'll start with Dee Dee Kavanaugh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a quick request. I had a text from a constituent, Mr. Ryan Valencia, And he was at the Rotary Club, and they were asking if we could possibly put our City Hall lights in blue and gold as support for Ukraine. So I thought I would just ask if anyone else would be agreeable to that.
I'm happy to second that.
So.
Okay, do we have to go to an agenda? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
That was it for me, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Luevanos.
I'm going to follow up, so my request is to bring up a discussion about an ordinance banning glyphosate.
I'm sorry, would you repeat that?
An ordinance banning glyphosate. Do you want me to spell it? Glyphosate.
Okay.
I think Mr. Gabler's got it. You got it? Yeah.
Is that the roundup that we were discussing?
Yeah, that's the roundup.
I think I was going to volunteer to get together with Heather and Melissa and try and get a hold of the school district and the park district, because it's going to take all three to
And
get
that's
rid of
actually
it.
my second request with relation to that. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, was we have discussed in the past the tri-agency meeting. This is exactly why we need that to happen. So that's my second request, is I would like to know when the tri-agency committee is meeting and for them to share out what was discussed to the residents.
I think it's scheduled for April 25th, and we've been more than happy to have this conversation with them, and we can
So-
put that on the agenda.
Let me ask you a question. You're asking for it to be on a future agenda, just I'm going to say roundup.
Share out of what was discussed at the tri-agency meeting.
I mean, we more than happy to report back to the city council on what was covered.
Okay, and I have a third request. I don't know if it's an agenda item, though. It's with regard to the state of the city. I'm glad that it was recorded so that those of us who are working could watch it, but I am requesting again that the state of the city be done in the evening so that residents who work can attend.
Do we need a second on that? Yeah, I'll second it, because why not discuss it?
I just, not all of us can afford to take a day off for the state of the city.
Okay. And then her first request, I still am a little foggy on.
There was a request to bring back an ordinance to ban, for lack of a better term, Roundup in the community.
Okay.
Well, but before, yeah,
Well, I think I would like to just have it as a discussion before we vote to ban or.
Yeah, no,
support it.
a discussion, to put it on the agenda, the possibility of an ordinance.
So I want
That's
to
what I'm asking
second
for.
her first comment or motion
Okay.
for discussion.
But are you going to talk about it at the tri-agencies meeting first? So that will kind of lead into it.
That'll help the
Right.
discussion. I
Yes.
hope.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. And I would note, for state of the city is normally the mayor's prerogative. Given that Mayor Mashburn is not seeking reelection, we may want to wait till the new mayor has an opportunity to weigh in on when the state of the city would be. That's my only comment.
Can the rest of the city council supersede that, or it's just at the mayor's discretion?
You know, I could,
Gotta count to
if you,
three.
if you want to have that, and I can just recuse myself.
All I'm suggesting is we can have that discussion with the new council.
Yeah, that's,
But whenever, if this council wants to bring that back, we'd be more than happy to bring it
But-
back to,
okay,
normally it's a prerogative of the mayor.
okay, so I'll back off and leave it at that. That's, because that'll be up to the new council way in advance of the actual state of the city.
yeah, and in the past, the state of the city has been a chamber activity that we have participated in. It would appear that this year, which I am very happy, it was a city event and so I hope that goes forward.
Absolutely, and I think that's why we have a considerable drop in cost, which I think is very important, that it doesn't burden the residents with a high fee. And if we want to talk about it for nighttime, I'm good with that. So anyway.
Okay. We can put something together and bring it back.
Thank you, Mayor.
No, I was just going to comment that I would prefer it wait till the new council myself.
Okay.
But it doesn't matter. I mean, it
But
could
I-
change. If we decide something now, it could change anyway with the new council.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
either way.
You're right. So I'd just like to stay out of the way if that's the case. And remember, I went to CME, not Royal.
Hey, I went to the better one. But it was nice having a lower cost this time. So that was nice.
Yes, and I think it's very important that it is the city's state of the city. Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Litzner.
Thank you, Mayor. I think we had alluded to this in the discussion in response to public comment. This would be the time to ask to bring back in some way a discussion about RVs, whether it looks like, but maybe Mr. Mike Judge has something he'd like to comment first. There you go.
Third.
He's the one that's done most of the research. We should have him make this motion.
Third.
So is this, can I just ask for clarification?
Well, I'll tell you my thoughts, and then Mike, please give your thoughts. My thoughts are we could investigate maybe. Yeah, and that could include parking on the both sides of the house. It could include, even in my mind, having a review committee that will allow. Yeah.
Wait a minute. But I've got a question for legal or city manager. Is by us tonight saying we're going to discuss it, it opens it up again, so can we stop enforcement until we? Okay.
We are going to pause all activity right now regarding the prior action of the city council until the city council can take a further action on this. So
This
we're gonna
is how we
pause.
ended up in this mess. This is why the residents said you haven't enforced it in 10 years. And now we're going to say we're going to not enforce it again. Are we a city of law and order or not? Are we
No.
going to enforce the laws?
It's not enforcing what he's discussing. It's re-looking at the actual ordinance and making changes to it if we want. So it has nothing to do with that.
That was my
Correct.
intent, to
Right.
revisit the ordinance, but
Revisit
not
the
stop.
ordinance.
And I wouldn't say necessarily stop. And Mara is here, and I want to say a big thank you for all the effort the city has put into enforcing and sending and educating. And we recognize and thank you for all that you've done. That is a heck of a lot of work that's been going into that. We just want to maybe clarify a few things to make it so that it is meeting our objective.
Right. It's only fair. We have not enforced it, and all of a sudden we're enforcing. So it's only fair to give the community an opportunity to weigh in and for us to possibly give ways out and or grandfathers. I'll be very honest, my sister and brother-in-law have a grandfathered RV access to their house, and they have a letter from 15 years ago.
We should definitely just go ahead. It sounds like there's a motion to
So,
put this on the future
sorry, David.
agenda. No, it's okay. And we should do that, no problem.
Okay. Lynn's done, Ruth is done. Okay, I have one that I want to bring up. We, not too long ago, a few weeks, whatever it's been, I think most of us saw a letter, it was in the newspaper and what have you, of some allegations made by Waste Management towards another company, Athens. And it's alleged that there was some kind of monkey business with the weights that would actually make the charge for disposal at the landfill not accurate. And by making it not accurate, it would harm virtually almost everybody in this county, the county of Ventura, the city of Simi Valley. I am very concerned that if those allegations are accurate, then we've been done out of a lot of payment. And if they're not, then there's nothing to worry about. So my question is, and I don't have an answer, but I'd like staff to find out, or Mr. City Attorney to find out, if the district attorney has started any type of investigation into the allegations.
Well, I can easily make a phone call tomorrow and find out if there is an investigation to begin with, so I'd be happy to report back to the city council.
Okay. And then second to that, if there is no investigation, I'd like to put it on the agenda for us, because I would like to call for an investigation. It's only appropriate, and not saying that anybody's done anything wrong, but the allegations are such that it should be investigated.
I think in addition to the city attorney looking, placing a call to the district attorney's office, I know that the county of Ventura is also looking at it. I know the state of California is also looking at it as well. So why don't we get you an update? We can provide an update to the city council on who is actually looking at it, and then we can decide
Okay,
where
and
we go from there.
If there's a method, if there is a whatever, wherever it goes, trial or something, make sure that Simi Valley is listed as one of the victims. Okay. Could I have a second on that for the record?
Oh, second.
Okay, thank you. Okay, where's my list of? Okay, tonight, once again, we have to adjourn in memory of somebody. Elia Rose Sexton, who is Al Sexton's mother, and Al is the Deputy Public Works Director. And we're also closing in memory of Jessica Freeman. And with that, tonight's meeting is adjourned.